You're here today with Emma Chamberlain, the co-founder of Chamberlain Coffee. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So you are the co-founder of Chamberlain Coffee, but you're also many, many other things. Your career spans from traveling for things like fashion weeks to creating your own independent content to building this company. It's a pretty non-traditional career, especially for someone of 22 years old. So how, when you were growing up, did you envision what a career would look like for you? Did it look like this?
It definitely did not look like this. I think it's very easy to sort of fall into a traditional sort of plan. And so, I imagined myself going to college for at least 4 years. It was a goal for me to go to a really good school and hopefully get, some sort of scholarship maybe. Like that was a huge, huge focus for me. And then, I had a few job interests. I was really interested in math and science. So I was I actually wanted to be an anesthesiologist for a little bit because I was like a little too young to understand that that's a really complicated job. And I just saw that it made a lot of money and that it was math and science related. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll do that.
Had you ever been put under anesthesia before?
Yes, and that's actually one of the other reasons why I kind of wanted to do it, because my anesthesiologist gave me such a great experience. He played a music video for me while I was going under, and then I woke up and it was like nothing ever happened, and he really calmed my anxiety as an anxious person. So I was very grateful for him. But again, I'm kind of glad I didn't do that. I don't know how that would have worked out for me.
In your early days creating YouTube videos, you really kind of stumbled upon editing and shooting style that really ultimately skyrocketed your success. Walk me through those early days and kind of finding your niche on such a saturated and growing platform at the time.
So I started, as most people start with anything, mimicking what was out there, because I think that's how you learn. If you've never done something before, the best thing you can do is copy others. So I started out by definitely copying. I was doing what was popular for people my age, similar to me, which was a lot of, makeup, fashion, beauty related content. Pretty prim and proper, very, nice setup, nice background, the whole thing. And, maybe a more sort of personality wise, maybe a bit more refined in a way, right? And I mimicked that for a while. And then, I made it a goal to make a video every day during the summer, because I started during the summer. And when you're doing something as consistently as every day, you naturally get bored of things and want to start trying new things. So I owe my fast evolution to that let me do it every day sort of goal. And I, very quickly became bored of that thing. Also realized that wasn't me. It works for other people, it just doesn't work for me. So then I naturally started vlogging and just filming my everyday. And I ended up loving that the most. And then again, when you're doing something every day, it evolves. So very quickly, I was like, well, I'm bored of this vlogging, this way of vlogging. Let me, build it up. And my dad told me from the day that I started my channel that I need to be fully myself. And I hadn't been in the very beginning. This all happened in the span of 2 months, by the way. But he was like, you need to be yourself. And I really struggled with that for the first month. But very quickly, I became comfortable and was able to do that, because I was just forcing myself to dive in head first and just get good at it, really. And it became this goal of making a video that's as entertaining as possible, but also as me as possible, and also as funny as possible. I wanted it to be funny at the time. That was my main goal. But it became this sort of art form for me. How can I make the mundane, me being mundane, the subject matter being mundane, as interesting as possible? And then that has sort of followed me ever since.
Definitely. Throughout that journey, you started it in high school. You've had quite the change of, your character online, the way that you're, performing online, the different types of content, your style evolution. How do you describe the different eras of Emma Chamberlain?
Yes. So I would say the very beginning is Emma being a YouTuber. I didn't fit quite right there. So then it became Emma being her wild teenage self, honestly, for many years. Like just playing. It was like Emma's playing. She's having fun. The videos are like super energetic. I had a lot of energy naturally at that time. That's just who I was. So these videos were very energetic. And then I think it's sort of transitioned to like, I sort of had maybe an existential crisis, which was a more quiet, more maybe aesthetically driven sort of video style, less personality. I was going through a personality shift myself, so it was very hard for me to figure out, okay, what am I putting out there? So that was more of a quieter time. I call that the quiet time. And then I would say where I'm at now is like very much sort of a mix of the two, actually. Like there's still, the personality is coming back. I'm feeling like, okay, I know who I am as an adult now. I can show myself again, and that feels comfortable. But, you know, as an adult, I'm more aesthetically driven than I was as a kid. So like the videos, I want them to look cool too, like, and look nice. But now YouTube is really fun for me again too, because I think you go through a weird, when something becomes your job, you know, your relationship with it changes. So I think now I'm enjoying it again. And I don't have as much time to do it as I wish I did, but that time will come later and I can play around even more again later.
I know in other interviews and in speaking with other people, you've talked a lot about your intuition guiding you, and that, you know, in many ways it told you to step back for a while from YouTube.
Yeah.
Are you starting to move back in that direction again? How are you kind of managing where your like heart and soul is telling you to go next?
Yes, my heart and soul is loving YouTube again. Like I'm ready to be back. I like feel ready to be back. I think the main reason for that is, well, two main reasons. Number one, because I think I've been able to sort of develop my personality as an adult off screen. It's very hard to develop your personality when you're on camera every day. I don't know what it is, but it can stunt growth weirdly. And I felt that intuitively. And I was like, I need to transition from being a teenager to being an adult by myself for a minute. Like I have to, because I only know how to be on camera as a teenager. I don't know who I am when the camera's off, so I had to shut the camera off. You know, I've been able to develop that. And now, you know, it's natural for me again to be on camera. But on top of that, you know, I've been able to diversify sort of my businesses and things like that so that I have a bit more space to change myself on YouTube. It's very scary to change something when it's your job and it's working.
Yeah.
And so because I've diversified now, if I want to change things up on YouTube, I'm not afraid, because that is not my job anymore technically, right? So it's given me so much freedom, and it's allowing me to re-enter into it, which I've not even nearly re-entered it to the level that I plan to, but you know, it's like I am able to play there. But also I think with me and YouTube, like I'm more in the mood to make longer videos that, you know, maybe I only upload every once in a while. Like that's what I'm more interested in. You can't do that if it's your job. Mm-hmm. So there are so many good things happening with my relationship with YouTube that just took time to figure out. And it was hard because I kept trying to put myself back into it too soon, but intuitively and emotionally, I'm loving it again. And my relationship with it is very healthy.
Yeah, well, I'm sure many people will be excited to hear that. But in terms of your job today, what do you then consider it? What are you relying on to ensure that the YouTube can be something that's for, you know, a passion project or something you just love to do?
Yes, there are a few things that don't contribute to like paying the bills, yeah, right? But maybe there's longer term goals with them. Like I think YouTube is absolutely that. Even Chamberlain Coffee is that. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm putting all of the money back into that business right now. And so I'm not, that is for now a passion project really. I mean, it's a business, but it can't, I'm fortunate that it gets to be a passion project because I'm not relying on that for my income. Right now, my podcast has become sort of my, what I would say is my traditional like job, you know, like that's my job, but also, you know, brand partnerships as well. And I've really just loved the way that I've been able to do brand partnerships more recently because they feel much more like collaborations now more than ever. I enjoy the creative side of working with brands and marketing brands. Like I love that. And so, I do that a lot with Chamberlain Coffee, but I also do that a lot with other brands as well. Figuring out creative ways and intriguing ways to market product. That passion, it was unexpected, but has become something that I love.
I definitely want to ask about that because I think that the way that you've worked with brands like Levi's, Aritzia, Louis Vuitton, all these kind of fashion houses that have their own marketing teams, their own kind of ideas of where they want to take their campaigns and their partnerships and things like that. What is your role when you come into partnerships like that? How do you ensure that anything that you're doing is still really, keyed in on like what the Emma Chamberlain brand is, even though it is partnering with these other major companies?
I think it's a balance because, brands have their own sort of vision and I absolutely respect that. You're taking two identities, right? I mean, I think it's a little different because one is sort of a brand identity and one is sort of a personal identity. But, there's two forces here and it's finding a brand who's willing to do a few things. Number one, create something that feels us. But number two, them allow me to, when it comes to like my social media, for example, or the content that I'm putting out into the world from my hands, right? That feels me ultimately, because I don't feel comfortable putting something out that doesn't feel like me. But then at the same time, I also do that for them. So there are times when I'm a canvas for them, right? And that's sort of this compromise that we are, not even compromise, but that's sort of a part of the collaboration. Both parties get to be themselves with the other present, but then also there's something that's us too. And maybe that's like the main campaign that goes out into the world. Maybe that's, a video that we make for their channel or something. It's like everybody gets what they want and what they need. It's complicated, but it is worth it because I think that it creates the most intriguing, exciting sort of content at the end of the day.
Definitely. Building your own brand then, Chamberlain Coffee, I'm sure that it's a different experience coming into, whether it's a marketing campaign or a social media post or all the packaging of the coffee and all those sorts of things. Why do you think you were the right person to start this brand? Obviously, you had a lot of coffee in your YouTube videos. You talked about a lot. It was a big part of your life. But taking that from, a video that you share with people online to a consumer product is a pretty big jump. So why were you the right person to create a consumer product surrounding coffee?
Well, I think for one, I have built a level of trust with my personal audience around coffee because for years, not only was it a huge topic of my videos just naturally, but also I've recommended coffee places. I've recommended coffee products. And I think, there's a level of trust with me and my taste for coffee, for one. But for two, I've always been obsessed with coffee as a product from, cafe culture to also other caffeinated beverages. That has always been such a special thing to me. And it's always been a passion for me since before I started my YouTube. And I think when it comes to creating a brand, I'm a home barista just like the rest of us in a way. And what was inspiring to me was like, how can I create a brand that feels bright, feels fun, feels playful, feels inviting? And also when it comes to even developing the blends, creating something for my generation, also creating something that's approachable, but also something that feels like it's for everyone in a way, like even flavor profile wise.
Coming from the creative side of things, so having that experience in YouTube and content creation and marketing and branding and the ways that you did, what were the steps that you had to take to ensure that you did have people who were qualified to allow you to create a product that people would consume? Because there are so many regulations that come with that. Many steps through the process, whether it is ingredients, even manufacturing and packaging. What were the steps that you had to take to build a team that you could really come together to build a product like this?
Yes. Well, I think it is really filling the gaps. Like when, I have maybe the creative vision, I have maybe the overall vision, but I can't do it all. As you're building the business, you're slowly but surely, almost like chaotically figuring out what you need next, okay, the first step was finding a company that already exists that could help to create basically coffee pros who can roast the beans in the exact way that I want them so that it can taste exactly how I want it to taste. And so it was finding that. And then it was working with investors so that we had the money to eventually rebrand. And then when we were rebranding, it's finding, creative illustrators and people like that to come in and build it out. And then from there, it's been like, okay, now we need a CEO. Okay, who's that going to be? And it's interviewing as many people as you possibly can until you feel it in your heart, like they get it.
So are you interviewing everybody that comes through the company? And besides that, like what else does your day-to-day entail with Chamberlain Coffee?
Yes, I'm in a lot of the interviews. A lot of times it is really challenging because, I have so many, at this point, pieces of my business that I have to manage, and there are some that I need to be more involved in than others. And so when it comes to like interviewing, for example, a lot of times the beginning stages of interviews, for example, those will happen with the team that I've already built out. Like I'm lucky that now we have that built out so that when I'm in the interview and I'm really, making the big choices, it's instead of being 15 people, it's 2, it's 3. When it comes to the day-to-day, it's a lot of approvals. It's a lot of things coming in from the team that we've built, whether it's like creative concepts for shoots or for, campaigns or for product or for, whatever it may be. And comes to me, I send my notes, I maybe send a completely new idea. I'm like, no, it's this actually. And then it's a back and forth like that a lot of times. And what's interesting is, I'm obsessed with retail strategy. Like I love that journey as well.
Well, I'm excited to hear that you are passionate about the retail strategy because that is something I want to talk about too. Moving into places like Walmart, Whole Foods, you are in multiple stores right now. Why was that something that you guys wanted to prioritize, and what has that process been like, moving, like you said, from just D2C to these multiple different avenues now?
D2C businesses for a long time, it was almost like the trend, right? Like sort of really leaning into social media marketing and really leaning into D2C. That was sort of the structure of the moment, especially like, what was it? During COVID, I would say for sure that was what it was. And then, coming out of COVID, it was like, okay, what do we do now? Do we want to keep that? Or do we want to play a bit? Do we want to get into the real world? And I think, are we ever going to stop shopping in store? I don't think so. I love going to the store. I mean, maybe one day it will completely not exist. We'll never go to a grocery store again. But I think that experience cannot be ignored even during, this very digital time that we're living in. Like we ultimately decided that we can't overlook retail. On top of that, we also, we're excited about developing something sort of ready to drink. That was always in our head, and we were like, okay, excited about doing that. Not sure exactly what that would look like for a while. It was like, okay, do we want it to be exactly my recipe? Do we want it to be, something else? What is that? Is it just like a really good black coffee? Like, what is it? But then we had some interest from retailers asking us, do you have a ready to drink beverage? And then it was like, okay, you know what? This has all been in our head, festering. And now the opportunity's here. This is something that's desirable. So we were like, okay, this is great. Let's do this. Going into ready to drink, that's a different category. It's also a category where there's some gaps, kind of for a reason, because it's a very challenging category to get right. But it's been good because we've learned a lot, and we love, and we're so proud of what we have out there now.
I know that you have some ready to drink stuff coming with Target that'll be launching soon. Besides that, what else is Chamberlain Coffee working on right now in terms of like what you're building for the future? I know you have some partnerships coming up for events in California and some other, campaigns and collections. So walk me through like where your sights are set for the next like 6 to 12 months.
Yes, we have some really fun collaborations with brands that have a similar sort of DNA to us. Like 818 is a great example. Base is a great example where, they're both sort of brands that were started by other girlies in this industry, which is so cool. Also two businesses that I really admire, like, specifically with 818, like, it's like it has this sort of like young and fun sort of feel, but it's also very chic and elevated at the same time. And then there's Base, that genius, innovators in the luggage space, like genuinely. They're both brands that I respect and I admire. And so it's exciting to get to work with them and do something with them, because it's like, let's just lift each other up. That always feels good. In general, we're just excited about, various ways that we can pop up in as many places as possible and just kind of get people trying the product. When it comes to what we're developing, I mean, I think actually a lot of my focus right now is like refining what we have, weirdly enough. I mean, we've experimented a lot, and I think we figured out what works, what doesn't work. And I think we want to go back in and refine and perfect. I think especially what's exciting is, with the ready to drink lattes, like coming out with new flavors. Like that's a part of sort of refining. It's like adding more flavors, even like little things like refining the packaging, refining the branding. Like those can often get overlooked when you're trying to scale a business. You're like, well, I just need to come out with this new product that's going to be huge and it's going to be, and that's not always what it is. There are things to refine. So I think we're in a refining phase right now more than ever. And just also like coming into ourselves as a brand.
Knowing the challenges that you've gone through, but also, the exciting parts of building the brand. If you could tell yourself something the day before you started the company, what would it be?
I would tell myself that I'm going to need to be patient because things take so long. I would also tell myself it's not always going to be done perfectly the first time. It's just not. It is just not. Like we give individuals grace. You know what I mean? We give individuals grace. Like it's not always, but we try to, right? Give other human beings the space to make mistakes. But when it comes to a business, arguably rightfully so, we give much less grace. It's like, you didn't get it right the first time? Okay, peace. And understandably so, because you're paying money for a product and you want it to be done right the first time. You pay money for, an experience. You want it to be perfect. That even comes from the inside as well, where I'm like, why didn't this product do well? Like, I thought this product was going to do well. Like, why didn't this product do well? When you open it up, it's a bunch of individuals who really care most of the time about the integrity of the brand, things being done right, the customer having a phenomenal experience. Like that's what we all want for the most part. And I think if I could have told myself anything, it would have been, these are all humans here. And, not everything's going to be perfect. We're not a machine. It might look like a machine. It might sort of feel like a machine, but it's not. It's absolutely not. And I think having grace, mainly from the inside, is so key. And being patient with myself too. Like I might have an idea and we do it and it sucks and it's not good. It doesn't work. But that's okay. You can't have ego in it either. Which luckily that's one thing I never did. I think I've always leaned closer to imposter syndrome than, ego. But I've definitely seen it as a machine and I've had to grow out of that for sure.
My last question for you, if you have some parting words to tell the audience, something that they might not know about you. I know it might be difficult because you share a lot of yourself online with the world. What is one thing that you wish people knew about you that they don't?
I think something that's interesting about me that is not maybe shown as often is how, like, I really do have this sort of bizarrely out of character sort of passion for business in a weird way. Like it doesn't make sense because all other facets of my personality could not be more the opposite. Like I've been known for everything but what we consider to be founding a brand, marketing a brand, running a business. Like nobody would have predicted this. Let's just say that. Not even myself. It happened almost on accident in a way, but I do have a passion for that, though my personality is still the same. Nobody's looking at me and saying, well, that's a businesswoman. Like when they talk to me, it's like, of course not. That's just not my personality. There is a personality, a stereotype that we associate with that. I just don't have that. I never will. And I don't have that now because of this sort of newfound passion in this experience. But like that's genuinely a passion for me. And I think most people, maybe people wouldn't know that. It's very common to see, the career trajectory that I've had. A lot of people start businesses who start in maybe entertainment and then start a business. It's very common. And there is sort of a stigma around it, like, well, it doesn't mean that you're passionate about the business. I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't know where, but it's the passion is there. I really am genuinely passionate about the journey of building a business in every single little corner of that.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with me about all of this. I'm super excited to see
Thank
where the
you.
brand and your career goes, and to see you on YouTube again soon, more regularly. I know you've been on a little, but thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
Thank you. I'm Emma Chamberlain, co-founder of Chamberlain Coffee, and today I'm going to be making, big shocker, a coffee. I don't know how this is going to go. I'm on the go today, so I'm going to use a to-go cup, okay? I need a lot of ice. I'll explain later. So, you might be looking at me and thinking, well, that's a little kid. I'm 22, so relax. I started Chamberlain Coffee when I was about 18 or 19 because I had a really genuine passion for coffee. But on top of that, through my YouTube channel, I became known as a coffee drinker. I need to do a double shot. So we're doing another one, or else it's not gonna be the right, it just will be wrong. It sort of was a natural thing to start a coffee company. But one of the main challenges was being young. I'm still in a lot of ways, even now, a kid. I don't have a lot of life experience. I didn't go to college. What gives me the credential to start a company? But I think, if you have an idea and if you're passionate about something, you might as well try it. Hold on. Nice. You have to get the espresso cold first. What's helped me manage my imposter syndrome about starting a company at such a young age is accepting the fact that no one knows how to do everything. And what I bring to the table is valuable. It's a new perspective on coffee. It's a new feeling. It's doing coffee in a different way. I still struggle at times with feeling, actually not as much anymore. You know what? Not as much anymore. I've really come to terms with what I'm able to bring to the table, entrepreneurially, if that's even a word. And now my coffee is done. I didn't fill it up all the way because this is just like the perfect balance. But if I filled it up all the way, it would be too much milk. I don't know. It's really good. I mean, of course it's good.
I used to manage myself. I used to email people and be like, I'm the manager of myself. And I've always had that kind of like creative entrepreneurship, like, the enterprising, that was always been a part of me.
Shaboozey, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Well, it's been a massive year for you. A #1 song on the Billboard Hot 100, 2 features on a Beyonce album, your first VMAs, and a tour across major cities in North America. How are you feeling?
I feel great, dream come true. I can't complain, no complaints.
It's been a long time coming, right?
Yeah.
And I hear you're quite the storyteller. So I want to hear the story of you before Shaboozey. So I want to hear the story of Collins.
Yeah.
Who were you before you became an artist? And how did you kind of find your passion for music?
I feel like I was just like a curious child. Ever since I can remember just being in school, preschool at that, like I was always just like acutely aware of just like, man, like as just the power I have as a human being, just like having this mind and being able to be curious and play and have friends and communicate and like watch TV and watch movies and like all these different things. I was just so curious about how all of those things honestly were formed, you know, and I was very just like, just super, just, I was just in love with ideas, you know, like I was just like, man, like this thing came from an idea and that piece of art came from an idea and that clothing and that, you know, so I was just always like very infatuated and loved ideas and the power of ideas. So, yeah.
Was there like a light bulb moment or a certain year you remember where you were like, okay, I can sing, I want to write, and I want to pursue music, I want to be a musician?
Well, I personally never thought I could sing.
Oh, really?
I think for me, it really does come back to the ideas. You know, I think that, I don't know, that age of 4, I just always go back to that age when a teacher asked me my favorite color, and I was like, I heard everyone go around the classroom and all the boys pick blue and all the girls pick pink and the guys pick red too. And I was just like, why is everyone picking the same color? You know what I mean? Like, I was just like very curious. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick green. And I think as soon as I did that, I kind of realized I'm like, I can pick whatever color I want. You know what I mean? I can do whatever I want. You know what I mean? So I think for me, it wasn't really knowing that I could sing, but knowing that I had like this freedom of choice. You know what I mean? To like, I can take that thing and do like that, and I can sing this thing like that, and I can, you know what I mean? Like, I was always the one with the weird, creative, zany, bold ideas and taking those risks. So, yeah.
No, but clearly you can sing.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I watched your show in New York. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And seeing all the people show out in their cowboy boots, cowboy hats,
Yeah.
a full house. Jack Daniels was a big part of it. You always have that on the stage as well. But I even overheard someone in the audience being like, if this is not the place to have a Jack and Coke, then where? So I'm actually curious, is there anything in the works with Jack Daniels, a brand partnership,
man.
something going on, or publicity?
No, Jack Daniels, they're really good. They're really good friends. They're always in my corner supporting things we're doing. I was fortunate enough, they invited me to the distillery in Lynchburg, Tennessee, and I learned how to, you know, make whiskey in the process of it, and learned about just the history of Jack Daniels and the Green family. I don't know if you know the story of that, but like Jack Daniels actually
Uncle
was
Nearest?
Uncle Nearest,
Yes.
yeah, was taught how to make a whiskey from an enslaved, slave. And then when Jack Daniels went and started his own distillery, he brought Uncle Nearest with him, and they continued to make whiskey together. So I was able to learn that. That was a cool story. Drank some whiskey water. Like, it's weird. They make all their water from like these quarries, or the water's like filtered through this natural spring. And that's why that distillery is in Lynchburg, is because of that. Like, I think it's Lime Rock or something. I don't know. But it's a really cool process, but it's really awesome. So yeah, so many things. I mean, you see my tour bus. Jack Daniels everywhere.
No, it's interesting because you sing about booze in quite a few of your songs. Your name is Shaboozey.
Yeah,
so
man.
I think that's fitting. But the name actually comes from people mispronouncing your last name, which is Chibueze.
Yeah, nice. You did it great. You had me the first person to ever pronounce that name right. Yeah.
So where was it, like, you know, people in high school? Like, why did you decide to make it your artist name is the real question.
Yeah, I think for me it was always that thing of like, being like a first generation, Nigerian. It was always about like fitting in and trying to figure out where do I kind of, where's my group of people, and trying to, it came from playing football, and I was like, man, I want to be the best football player because everyone around me is doing that or being the best this. And I think the name for me was just like, it was just about standing out, you know what I mean? And it's really cool to have a name that's as crazy as that one. It stands out, I've definitely had moments where I'm like, I think I want to change my name. And people are like, no, it stands out, and that's good.
And like I said, it's fitting with the booze too.
And the booze.
But it's
it works so well.
Yeah. It's very interesting though that you like mentioned, like, you wanted to fit in in high school, but now your music, what's so revolutionary about it is that it doesn't fit in with the rest of the genres. You bend genres, and that's what's been so, that's what people are loving, the country and the hip hop coming together.
Yeah.
Since when you started making music at 19, Was it from the beginning that you were like, okay, I can make music mixing both of these genres, or was it kind of a period of trying to find your footing and be like, what can I own?
Yeah, it was definitely a gradual process for me. I think I'm also like very blessed to come from the place I'm from, also in America, like Virginia. Growing up in Virginia was very inspiring to me, just because we didn't have too many archetypes or different people to kind of look up. There wasn't like a cultural identity in Virginia all the way. You have some of, like, if you think about Pharrell, think about what he's done. He's made Happy, he's made Pass the Cavassier, he's done the Khalees record. He's done so many things. This guy is like is a more, he kind of can fit into so many different boxes, categories. You got Missy Elliott, which I just learned, her big song is if you reverse, you know what I mean? If you think it reverse it, it's just like so creative. Like, who thinks of an idea to take a lead vocal and reverse it? So Kali Uchis, who's also from our area, like people who don't even know that, she was also someone who was, she's Latin, but she was doing if you go back in the day, she's mixing like 50s, mid-century like aesthetics with like this soul R&B thing. Now she's doing Latin. You know what I mean? Like, we're able to kind of be in all these different genres without people being like, well, you're from New York, you should be like making New York type of music. Or you're from Atlanta, you should be making trap music. Or you're from the Bay, you should be, they know, like, you know what I mean? Like, or, so it's like where we're from, I think since we have that like lack of like, everyone, I think individuality, I don't want to say lack of anything, like our culture is like creating these really unique individuals, and it's really cool to just be in that, that history of those people now.
And you've been making music since 19, as I said. Do you think when you finally found your footing with mixing hip hop, mixing country, that's what kind of changed the trajectory for you? Because again, it's been a long time coming. People have been saying for years, like, this is your year, but 2024 is really your year. So what do you think it was that finally had the world listening to Shaboozey?
There's so many ways I can answer that question, because I feel like when I started doing it, I was definitely like, I don't think anyone's gonna like this. Because a lot of times you hear people just like, oh, I like every genre of music but country. It's almost like one of the hardest things to get people to kind of like connect with for some reason. Yeah, so I was definitely like, what am I doing? I should probably like, not do this. But I think for me, I'm lucky enough to be in a class of other, Americana folk country artists that are really writing some really just amazing music, and they inspire me whenever I go into a studio. I'm like, let me go write something that I know is going to connect with these people. So I just have so many friends in music right now, and I'm just lucky to be able to just be inspired by my friends.
And speaking of that inspiration and friends in music,
yeah,
Beyonce did her country album. You had 2 features on it.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I think that's kind of what I was saying. Just just being in this kind of space, creating this sound and working on it for the past almost like 10 years. Seriously, I would say the past three years. I've been always inspired by like the Western Americana, the country, and mixing all those things together. And I've done probably made like 3 projects that are all in that world. So, I think when I heard she was making that project, almost like a year before it came out, I think I heard in Nashville, there were some rumors stirring. She was working on a project, and I was like, man, that'd be so awesome to be a part of that, however that could happen. And then I was called in the studio to kind of, write some records or write some things for the project. And I was able to meet one of her A&Rs, and we were talking, and I was like, man, y'all need to get like Chris Stapleton on a song, and like, you know what I mean? Like, you should be, and we need to get like who, I'm like trying to pitch ideas for them of features they should get on their album. And I'm like, we should get Mark Maggiore to do the cover, who's like this big French painter who does a lot of like Western oil paintings. And then they're like, yeah, but maybe you can get on it. I'm like, me get on a Beyonce album? I'm like, yeah, right. I was like, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't make no sense. You know what I mean? At that time, because for some reason I'm like, oh, I'm not, I'm not one of these, I'm not there yet. So it's just so surreal that they would, and humbling for me, for them to like choose me to, you know, be a part of that album, you know, not once, but like twice. Yeah. It's like
incredible.
crazy.
What are your other kind of dream collaborations? Who do you want to make music with?
Man, I mean, I think what's really cool about music now, it's like you can't force anything, right? I'm just really excited about the next stuff I can create, like the next stuff I'm gonna make. I don't really have, I'm not always like a feature person. Like if it really makes sense, it has to really make sense. But there's no one in particular, but there's, a lot of the people I would make music with, I was able to on my last album, like love Noah Cyrus and like.
I love that song.
Yeah,
It's my favorite one.
Love Noah Cyrus, and she's someone that inspired, like a friend that inspires me, and I was able to get her on my project. And Big X the Plug is also an artist. I'm like super. That's my home. It's my brother. Like he's, I'm inspired by his music, his tone, and just the way he approaches his songwriting. You know what I mean? And he's just an entertaining figure from Texas as well. So he country too. So got him, Paul. I kind of got the people I wanted on. But what I would love to see, I want to see a lot more like crossovers for sure. Like I would love to do like just a lot more of this, like bring a lot of other hip hop artists or pop artists into this space and just see how they would approach it. Because, I think that's what I did. I just got into the space and approached it the way I would do it,
Mm-hmm. Has having your own label, so you own your own label, American Dogwood. Mm-hmm. You're initially signed to Republic, but now you have your own under Empire. Mm-hmm. Has being able to take ownership of that, played a role in the success we see today? Or I also just wonder, like, how involved are you in, like, the productions and the music videos? Like, what has changed for you since owning your own label?
I think what's beautiful about what Empire has been able to do with, with me and other artists too, it's like they're able to just like, they really, really understand like artist business first. You know what I mean? Like that's what we're in. We're in music business, so it's music first. So I've always been someone that feels like artists are going to be the best A&Rs. Artists are going to be the best producers. They're going to be the best artist managers. They're going to understand other artists. They got great ears. So I've always been, even when I was at Republic, I was like, I told my team at that time, like I was like, I want a JV. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, you got to work your way up. I'm like, no, like I know, you know what I mean? As in, like how I got into artists for myself was like, I used to manage myself. I used to email people and be like, I'm the manager of myself because I was emailing blogs, doing write-ups, like going to different venues and getting tickets and selling tickets and doing things like that. Like just for me, I just felt like artists just needed that infrastructure. And I was really ready to like find an artist I believed in and stop making music to give them that infrastructure. But unfortunately, there was no one around. So I was like, let me just do it for myself. So I think like I take those things, and I've always had that kind of like, creative entrepreneurship, like, the enterprising, that was always been a part of me, like my dad was an entrepreneur and always like gave me different business books and told me about different people I should like look up to and read their stories. So I apply a lot of that to my music.
So you mentioned your father was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
What exactly did he do, and how did that influence you in your lifetime?
My dad, he brought himself over to the United States and went to school in Texas and got his master's in business management. So I think for me, just always seeing him, it's kind of crazy. I always see him like starting ideas, and he's a big dreamer. He's always like, he had this company called like Empower Africa, and like his goal was to go and create these like entrepreneurship programs or just like figure out how to, empower Africa, you know what I mean? Especially like where he's from. So I think for him, he tried a lot of different things, some successful, some not. I think he started like a chicken farm at some point, like was just like doing like, had like 10,000 or something chicken, and just being a wholesaler of like eggs and chicken products and stuff like that, and try to sell cars.
Did you ever participate in any of that?
I went, and it was very like primal the way he was doing it. You know what I mean? Like he had his methods of getting the chicken. That's a whole thing. That's another story. More traumatizing, but I love my dad, but I feel like obviously like he got somewhere, and I feel like I just took that and I saw his dream, and I just figured out how he was so passionate about those things. I was like, I want to make sure, that he feels like his son took that and excelled with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Does he love
Oh,
kind of the success?
100%. He lives in Nigeria now. He's not here, but you know what I mean? But any idea, he's like that too. If he has an idea, he's like, let me try it out. Not all of them work out, but you know, so.
What can we expect in 2025 from Shaboozey?
Man, to be honest, like selfishly, you know, I wanna continue to like kind of like just give people just music that's heard across the world. You know what I mean? Just keep kind of making songs that resonate with people. I think this album was really different because that's what I did. That's what I went in when I went in there. This kind of album cycle and this like process. I was like, man, I want to write really big songs, and not big in the sense of like sonically, but also deep. You know what I mean? Like just writing things that were super meaningful, and I think we're gonna connect with people. And I think that's kind of what is happening in music with everybody. That's killing the charts right now, or it's a lot of really authentic songs in there. It's so beautiful to just see people like, you know, like Tommy Richmond and like, you know what I mean? And like hearing him talk about, you know, he's from where I'm from and he's talking about Queen's Gambit, which is like a small little bar in Manassas or Northern Virginia. Like nobody in the world knows that, but the fact that you can put that in a song and it still has that reach. And you know, even Chapel's music, like the stuff she talks about is so personal to her. It's really, I'm excited for like music, you know?
Yeah. So do you have any predictions for the music industry in the next 5-10 years? What do you think is going to be big?
You know, it was actually crazy. I was going to answer that question without even bringing it up, but it was just, I always think about how like, there was like an article I saw on Billboard like about like a year or two ago. They were like, where are all the stars at? You know what I mean? And it's like, now there's like so many. So it's beautiful to just see all of these acts coming in with like Teddy Swims, you know, he's got this super, super soulful voice. It almost sounds like something straight out of like, you know what I mean, like old Hollywood. And then you got all these things coming out. I don't know. I mean, this AI thing is like, I know a lot of people hate it. You know? AI. I was like, yeah. It's a pretty interesting tool, you know, when you know, when utilized in a way that, you know, obviously can help people. Like I think it can, you know, there's ways it can be.
You're supporting it.
I was supporting like, you know, replacing people and stuff.
I feel like I have mixed feelings about that with the musicians, but it can make your job easier.
It's just like different things to just figure out how to like, even if it's organization systems and just helping certain things out. Like sometimes you even use it to like figuring out like the keys of which songs work and stuff like that. You know, damn, I might be the first artist to say I support it.
I think so.
I don't know. I'm just, you know what I mean? It's just like, you gotta have to have, you know, it's something that's coming, and, you know, it's something that people can get ahead of and just figure out how to just help you do your craft better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It doesn't have to replace you.
It does, yeah. You know what I mean? Exactly. Like with reference vocals, you can take someone's vocals and reference and figure out like, oh, this person fits in this song, or just so many different ways you can use that. You asked me the future of music. I'm just telling you. You know what I mean?
My last question for you. Do we have a name for your fan base yet?
Oh, man. I mean, I like the bootcut gang, or the bootcut kids, or the bootcut boys, bootcut girls. I love the bootcut jeans, so...
What about like Booze Cruise?
The Booze Cruise? Oh God, maybe. I mean,
no.
I'm gonna put a hat. I'm gonna ask them at the next show. I'm gonna take you know what I mean, have like a little hat in a bag or something. Or no, what is it? Piece of paper and a hat. And pull it out and see what everyone kind of responds to. What do you think? Should Booze Cruise?
The Booze Cruise. Yeah.
The Booze Cruise? Yeah. I do want to open a bar in Nashville though.
Called Boozies?
It's Boozies or Shaboozey's or some. Boozies be hard though.
On 5th Street.
On 5th Street, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, crazy.
All right, well, thank you so much again for being here. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Here with Mario Mims, aka Yo Gotti, the CEO of CMG Records. Happy holidays, man. I appreciate the time.
Likewise.
Thank you, man, for allowing us into one of your many homes around the world. I don't want to get a location, right? One of your many homes around the world, man. So all the success, man. You know, you're CEO of a record label. Do you feel it? Like it's 2023 as we move into 2024. How you feeling?
I mean, I feel good. I feel good about it. You know, I'm trying more and more to like, take it in the moment. That been one of my hardest challenges, I think, being a hustler.
Yeah.
Because you're always trying to get to the next level. You're always trying to overdo what you've done before. You're always trying to keep what you built on track, or, to scale it to a bigger magnitude. So sometimes you don't get to feel it, you know what I mean, and enjoy it and live with it in the moment. So that's been one of my challenges that, I look back at pictures and I look back at videos years later and realize they're like, oh, that was a dope accomplishment. That was a dope moment. But in the time, it was just another thing.
Yeah, he was just doing it in the middle of it. Yeah.
It was just another thing that I knew we had to knock down to keep going.
Yeah. You come well regarded, man. I mean, Sean Jay-Z Carter speaks very highly of you, right? I mean, Steve Stout speaks very highly of you.
Yeah.
I can't find a person that says anything bad about Yo Gotti, and they always say how smart you are, how focused you are, and a lot to get into about your business personality and all of that. But I also want to start here, right? Because in 2004, you said something interesting, and I'm gonna read it. You said rap is 90% business, 10% talent.
Yeah.
We got talent, and the business is about staying around for a long time, working hard. That's what I came to do. That was back in 2004. Yeah. Here we are going into 2024. That's 20 years ago.
20 years
As you
ago.
sit here 20 years ago and you hear those words that you said in 2004, I mean, now you can feel it, right? You can say, God, look, we're in your crib, man. Look at this. This is amazing.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
Does it feel like 20 years?
Nah, it don't feel like 20 years. Again, like when you actively in it and you're not taking breaks and I don't really take vacations. I don't like everything is, even when you see me out the country, I'm still working on something. I'm still doing something. I'm making the trip multi-purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm never, and when I say vacation, meaning like mentally, meaning where I put the phones away. I'm not taking calls. I'm not looking at emails. It never happened since I started hustling.
Yeah. That's why you got to take a cruise, right? I love cruises because
I took a cruise once, but
no Wi-Fi though.
Oh, you can buy a package.
I know you can, but that's
you can buy a Wi-Fi package. Nah, I was on the laptop checking in on the business.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
You gotta sit back and relax.
Yeah, I only been on one cruise. It was dope. I went on the Disney cruise with my kids.
Nice. I want to do that Disney cruise. I did the Royal Caribbean, but it was to the Bahamas. It was nice. No Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I had Wi-Fi now.
I know you did. Yeah, I know you did. When you think about all the things, again, 20 years ago, you said those words. It's fair to say you've reached your business objectives, right? Again, beautiful crib, right? I see a studio, right? You got a table right here, right?
Yeah.
And so you're so hardworking, but again, the thing that you hear about you the most is how smart you are. How do you process information? Because even when you called me that Saturday, and I'm gonna tell you about that dude, it was I was like, man, this dude does his due diligence.
Yeah.
I was impressed.
Yeah.
Even at that call, right? I'm at a restaurant in New York and I'm talking to you. I'm like, man, and you're asking all the questions, but I noticed you was silent every time I was talking. How do you process information?
I think information is the most valuable thing we can consume. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's never enough information. It could be wrong information, but it's never enough information, meaning you can take it in from any place, any form, any walk of life, any race, male, female, anything. I take in information from anybody. There's nobody too small or too big that I can't get information from. Yeah. And then it's up to me to cipher through that information to see what's good for me to hold on to, what's good for me to use and apply to something that I'm doing. So I think everything is information. My whole life, since I was a kid, I remember sitting in the barbershop and just listening to people talk, And I still like to be in the barbershop longer because that's where a lot of talking was happening at.
Oh, geez.
You know what I'm saying? So
they teach you.
And our barbershop was like around a lot of my hood that I grew up in. So, I learned a lot of information just sitting there waiting to get my hair cut in the barbershop. I learned a lot of information sitting around my bigger, older brothers, my mamas, the guys they was dating, just listening. So I think I learned that early as a child. And I want, just listening when people thought I wasn't listening.
Yeah, that's what your mom said. She said you would sit around, listen to the adults talk, and just kind of process the information.
And I remember if I didn't know what the word mean, I would remember it till I got to where I can jot a word down. And it was like my own dictionary, right? I would have like a list of words that I had to find the meaning for.
Yeah.
Something that I may heard somebody say that I didn't know what it mean. Or I had to hear that word used in a sentence again, or I had to actually look it up to see like what they meant by that. Yeah. I used to do that since I was a child.
Yeah. Why? Why'd you do that?
I just wanted to know.
Information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to know the information. And I believe that, like, you know, some people say that, you know, experience is the best learning lesson. In some cases, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think, like, I do think you could learn from other people's mistakes. So I think that I believe in prevention. So if I learn from your mistakes, I don't have to bump my head to learn it. I can learn. You already bump your head, I don't got to bump mine. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's a lot of information too.
I done bumped my head a lot of times, guy. I ain't got no hair left.
Yeah.
Man.
I'm not saying that I didn't. I bumped mine. I bumped mine too. You get what I'm saying? But I'm saying if we can prevent ourselves from doing it, we should. Absolutely. You know, that's part I feel like what I do with some of the artists I work with. You know, they should never bump their head the way I did, because I'm giving you the information that I done wrong already. So why would you go do it the exact same way and bump yours after I already told you it hurt? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
What's it like running a record label here in 2023? Because the music industry has changed. I mean, listen, I remember when I first discovered you, no disrespect, Gotti, LimeWire, Napster was still kind of flowing, and I was getting it, right? But, I mean, what's it like today in 2023 when so much has changed? Streaming, you always hear artists complaining about what that's like, but you found a way, you pivoted, and here you are. What's it like in 2023 running a music label?
I think that's the value of being a hustler, is adapting to change, and being ahead of the curve. I do think that the music business is approached differently than, you know, how when I was first sitting and coming up. But you just gotta adapt. You gotta adapt. You gotta understand. You know, for me, each artist I ever work with is his own thing. You know what I'm saying? Like no two people the same. You got to know what motivate that person, what that person's strengths and weaknesses are, fears are, what gets them up and keep them going, what'll pull them down. You know what I mean? And as a mentor, I feel like that's what I am to them more than anything, is like a big brother or a mentor, and I got to help them accelerate those strengths and stay away from those things that demotivate them and make them feel like, you know, they can't be the biggest artist in the world. Because as an artist, I think confidence is your superpowers. And I think if you ever lose your confidence, it's over. Yeah. So how do you push your artist without killing their confidence? That's the art, I think.
How do you do it?
I think that's my own little trick.
Well, I mean, listen, man, take me back to that young Mario Mims, right? Again, I was talking to your mom, and wonderful, wonderful woman, man.
Yeah,
and she was
great.
smiling, and we were reminiscing about the fila suits, you know, how I used to come fresh. But she had a story about how she, you know, she was always working, right? And then when she left her life and then she went to work at a store, and she would come home and she would be expecting y'all to be doing your homework, right?
Yeah.
But here you are upstairs, and she was thinking you was doing homework, but here you are writing all these papers and jotting down, right? Take me back to that room where all that paper was on the floor and you was writing, and that young Mario Mims was just discovering his craft. What were you doing?
Well, I was in love with hip hop, you know, and I was trying to figure out how to critique my craft to be, you know, something that was special, that would cut through in the world where so many people was doing it. What was gonna make me different than everybody else that was doing it at my high school, or you know, even just in my neighborhood? Like, what's gonna make me be special than the thousands of people that I was seeing that was trying to do it? Cause I used to be in school and they used to have what they call, not battle rap, cause we didn't battle rap where we from, but everybody rapped. I wouldn't consider battle rap because we weren't talking about each other, how they do that.
Just a little
on
crowd.
the East Coast. Yeah, but like where you kind of like in who got the best flow.
Yeah.
So, and there was a lot of guys in my school I thought had better flows, you know what I'm saying? So, and I had to be like trying to figure out how to come up with different flows so I'd be ready when we go back in the lunchroom. You know,
freestyles.
But but even before that, but that was just a thing. But before that, I feel like my mom and my aunties put the value of nice things and luxury things in my mindset because they had them. You know, like you said, the feel-out jogging suits, putting the big ropes around me, taking me to the fights. We had houses in Vegas. You know, this whole lifestyle was like, you know, having money was what I seen them doing. They was having money. You know, my mom, my aunts, everybody around them, they friends, everybody was having money. So that's you know, I thought you supposed to have money, right? You know, then I seen it all get taken away from them.
When your mom left.
Yeah, so I seen all the money go away and people go to prison and the lifestyle change and, you know, so then that was kind of like a hold up. You know what I'm saying? What's going on here? And
did that make you want to be a rapper more or make you want to make more money to get it back?
Nah. I don't think that made me want to be a rapper more because at that point, I don't even know if I understood that rapping could make money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It made me probably want to be a hustler more, or it made me want to be the man of the house more. It made me want to put my mom in a better position after I seen her go from driving Benzes and stuff like that to the car she was driving. You know, I think it was like a blue Cavalier or something. The seat broke. It was like, you know what I'm saying? It was like you know, it was a whole different lifestyle. So to me, and she never said this to me out of her mouth, but to me, I looked at her like that was an uncomfortable situation for her. So at a very early age, I wanted to change that. You know, then I seen my brother try to change it. And I seen him go to prison. And then, you know, I wanted to change it. So so that made me start taking whatever I was doing serious. Yeah.
You went to Tennessee State and your mom said she wanted to force you because she wanted you to major and you went for a semester, I believe, and did business.
Actually, I went to Southwest Community College.
Southwest Community
I tried
College.
to go to Tennessee State.
Okay, mom said you went to Tennessee, but you went to community college for a semester.
So, you know, one of the things I wanted to do was graduate from my mom because I would have been I was the first, you know, my bigger brother didn't finish school. So, and my mom didn't play by school. If you lived in her house, you woke up, you went to school. If you were sick, you didn't leave the house. So if you want to play sick, you sick, cool, stay in the house. And we didn't want to be in the house, so we'll go to school even if we were sick. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because we won't be outside. Yeah. You dig? So, you know, that was something I wanted to do at the time. You know, thinking back, it wasn't even for me. I wanted to do that for her. I just wanted to finish school because it was so easy to drop out of school. You know, everybody around me in the environment I was living in, nobody was focused on finishing school. So that was the easiest thing for me to do, to not finish. But I really wanted to, you know, to do that for her, and I done it. And then I wanted to go to TSU. I applied, and they denied me. So I went to Southwest Community College because I heard that if you do a semester in a community college, you can then transfer up there to Tennessee State. But I never made it to Tennessee State.
But you was majoring in business for that one.
Yeah.
What was your, at that point, if you had put hip hop or rapping aside, like, did you want to be a businessman? Is that what you were going to school for?
Yeah, businessman, entrepreneur.
Yeah. Did you know what that mean? I was asking Pharrell. He says he even know what that word meant.
But I was already a businessman, actually.
Yeah.
At that time, you know, a businessman without the degree. Yeah. Or without the paperwork. You know what I'm saying? So, I guess I was just trying to go see the other side of, you know, the what else I don't know.
Yeah. One of the things that impressed me when your mom was talking was that she said she had purchased tickets to a hip hop show. It was that two stories actually. Your first rap or your first concert. Your mom, your sister show up. You said if they come in, you're not getting on stage. Yeah, she said it's because maybe you were going to have profanity and you didn't want to hear it. Is that what that was?
Yeah, I didn't like my mom listening to my music early on or none of that because, you know, I'm a big person on respect. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So I know what I was talking about. I ain't even wanted to hear it. You know what I'm saying? So that's probably what she was speaking about because I ain't like her to listen to the music and come to the shows or nothing like that because, you know. Yeah. I was talking wild. Yeah.
But she did hear it, and then she came and you was like, can you tone it down? You don't got to tone everything, but you was just speaking what you know.
Yeah, if I had, you know, it's music is a expression of life, so. Yeah. All imagination, so.
Yeah. The second story was she said she had got you some tickets, right? It was a big show, and she thought you was going to love them, and all of a sudden she go to present you the tickets. You say, nah, Mom, I don't want to go. I want to be on the stage. I don't want to be in the crowd. What show was that? And I thought it was a Jay-Z show. Was that Jay-Z show?
I don't think it was a Jay-Z show. But they took me to a couple shows. Like I used to go to like New Edition shows, and I remember going to a couple shows that I actually went to with my aunt and them, you know. And like I said, I was just fascinated with hip hop and the artistry. So, you know, after a couple shows, it wasn't the first show, but after a couple shows, I was kind of like, nah, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, the concert, I can't remember the exact artist, but I remember it was at the Orpheum, I think, in Memphis, when I was like, nah, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna perform in there one day.
You want to be on stage?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who was you studying at that time? I mean, I know you said 3-6 with some fans, and then, you know, Al Capone back then, you know, 8-Ball, MJG, you know,
Yeah.
Memphis legends.
I think I studied everybody, I feel like, a little bit, you know, because I want to know what they was doing. Anybody that I seen that people like that, I want to know why people like you.
Yeah.
What is it, right? So some music that I didn't personally, it wasn't my style of music that I like, but I still, you know, listen to it to try to figure out what's the components that people taking away from this that I may not like, that I need to know about. So I used to, you know, I would listen for that. But I liked it, 8-Ball, MJG, of course, because they were doing storytelling, music and stuff like that.
Coming out hard. It's one of my favorite tracks.
And Juvenile, Cash Money. And we were listening to Jay-Z like early. And being from the South, like me and my crew, we was riding around in the J record talking about, you know, damn, I just shot my brother. Ran off in the night like they want my brother.
Yeah.
Like I remember riding in a Galante. You remember what them cars is?
Yeah, Mitsubishi.
Yeah, we in a Mitsubishi Galante. Man, well, Lord knows what's in the car. You feel me?
Yeah.
Listening to Jay-Z.
The Galante or the Diamantes?
I just shot my brother, you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember that like it was yesterday with no idea that I would ever meet Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Or, you know, do business with him or do anything with him, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, with hustler music, I feel like I was on hustler music when a lot of people was on like rah-rah music. You know what I mean? Just like, wow. Nah, for some reason, I just gravitated to like the get money music.
Yeah. Again, man, thank you for inviting us to your house. It's not so much to get into more, but early in your career, once you figured out you had the hits and you were going through, I think it was TVT, and you know, you meet with Baby and Slim and Cash. What information are you processing at that point? When you're down there and you're watching them build Cash Money, you're studying Master P, like what information are you processing as a hip hop artist?
Well, you know, what I was doing at the time was kind of lucrative for me, right? And not knowing any real artists that was really like successful, like personally knowing them, you know, and if, for some reason, and it may be still like that today, but for some reason there was a stigma that people thought that like, oh, if you was in the street, you having money, that, oh, the rappers ain't really having money for real. You know what I'm saying? Like, for some reason, I don't know where it came from, but like, that you thought everybody's stuff was rented in the cars, everything you seen on MTV and BET was fabricated, right? So I think for me, going around Cash Money was the realization of, nah, shit real. You know what I'm saying? You know, because I went around Baby and Slim and everything you ever seen in every video was in their driveway. You know what I'm saying? So I'm at the house, I'm staying at their house and I'm looking at, you know, 10, 15, 20 cars in the driveway and I'm just around and that was the first time that I realized like, nah, the rap game, like, is for real, like, you know. So I think that was a pivotal moment for me because, you know, sometimes seeing is believing.
Yeah.
So that was the first time that I was able to see and believe and know that, nah, it's real money in making music.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you proved me wrong, man. I was able to see and believe that a lime green Rolls Royce exists, right? And we pull up and one's sitting in your drive. Matter of fact, the guy comes past. I'm like, what is that? Is that I see your car collection, you know, and you have that album out right now. I Showed You So. Great album, driveway furniture, man. You was sitting down talking about it, and as we pull up, all these cars is parked in your driveway, right? Including that lime green Rolls Royce. What is your favorite car out of all the ones we've seen?
At this point, probably the Phantom, you know, the OG Phantom, the big one, you know.
The black one?
Yeah.
Over the lime green?
Yeah, it's like a fun car.
Yeah.
You know, I put together I love cars, so I like to put cars together, different color coordinations, and do things that's different. You know what I mean? It's just my way of playing with cars. I was a Hot Wheel fan when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I used to collect Hot Wheels, and
Did you get the little track with the cars?
You know, I love cars, so you know that's one of my things.
Yeah. Listen, Gotti, you can give us one of yours when we leave. It's a Christmas gift. You feeling in the holiday spirit, you know?
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
But listen, man, jumping into the business again, you know, CEO of CMG Records. When you look around, and I listened to a comment that Jermaine Dupri made, right? Jermaine Dupri, one of the more respected icons in music, and it was something he said earlier. He was asked about if Atlanta is still the center of music. And he says it feels like it's shifted to Memphis.
Yeah.
Atlanta's still great, but the talent pool is not what it once was from him.
Yeah.
But Memphis is where it's at now, right? You being where you are, positioned in Memphis, having CMG Records, artists down, coming from there, outside of there. But do you feel that that's true?
Yeah, I feel like the light on Memphis right now. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like the light moves. You know, it was on Atlanta, it was on Houston. You know, it's on Memphis right now. And I think probably what you're referring to is that, you know, artists from Memphis nowadays, you know, have a better shot likely of one of these major record labels picking them up. Yeah. When nobody looked at us at one point. You know, everybody, you know, went to Atlanta to look first. So I guess that's what he meant, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. You know, but I think Atlanta got dope talent. Memphis, we just always had it just was overlooked for so long, but we always been great musicians. You know, the history of Memphis, soul and stacks, and you know what I mean, like it's a music town, so we always had the music. You know, people just didn't know, and then a lot of bigger cities would come, you know, taking the flavor. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They would come and taking the flavor and putting their little sauce on it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And taking it national. So, but you know, that's part of the game.
Yeah. I mean, listen, man. All the years I've been going to Memphis, I love it. Gus's Fried Chicken, man. You get that authentic feel down there. The music and going to the clubs, like you really feel it. When you look at Memphis today, right, in 2023, heading into 2024, what do you see?
You know, it's my hometown, so I feel like they develop in the city way bigger. You know, they spending more money on the city than when I was coming up. You know, high rises, different hotels. From the music scene, again, there's way more opportunity for artists to have better shots to come out of that. But you know, Memphis still just Memphis to me. Yeah. It's still just home. You know, I know all the back roads, back streets. I know everybody. It's still just home to me. Yeah.
Again, into the business, when I say these names, man, just give me one word that pops to mind, right? And I'll start with Master P.
Icon, legendary, hustler.
Jay-Z.
Like J to me.
One word, Gotti.
Okay. The GOAT.
50 Cent.
50 Cent, he a legend.
Legend. Yeah. I say 50 because, you know, he was one of the people that stepped to you when you were talking about changing your name, right? CMG now, Collective Music Group. It once was Cocaine Music Group, and you said, hey, it was good then, but you had to pivot, right? Yeah. Business, sometimes you got to pivot, you got to change the image. Take me into that conversation what 50 said to you that allowed you to understand it was the right move.
Yeah, so I had, I think it was Chris Lighter introduced me to 50 before he passed, and I was talking to 50 one time, and he just, you know, I think it was around the time I was doing a deal with Epic Records, and we was talking about CMG, and he was familiar with the mixtapes, you know, the mixtape series and all that. And you know, 50. If anybody know 50, if he talked to you, right, he just volunteer information from you. I think if he like you, you know what I'm saying. So he used to tell me a lot of information, just you know things that I thought was valuable information and that I should use. You know what I'm saying. Things that he probably had, you know, walls he had probably ran into early on that he probably seen that I probably could have ran into. So he was just giving me game that like, yo, you probably shouldn't do it this way and do that. So basically he was just telling me that, you know, you should change the name from Cocaine Music because you may scare the corporate people. Yeah. And I had never thought of that. And I'm like, yeah, he probably right. You know what I'm saying? So He like, you still rap about what you want to rap about. You move how you want to move, but just make sure on paper though, you need to make sure your business like clean and that, because you don't want to like, scare. The farther you get up, you don't want to scare the people. On first impression, and they hear the name cocaine music, it's like, oh, we already don't want to
Crime,
do business with you. So that was a good piece of advice. 50 gave me a valuable piece of advice.
Do you share that with your artists now?
Yeah, of course. I think like I said, information. If you pick up information, you pass it down.
The word valuation keeps on popping in mind when I talk about you now, because apparently you're into valuations and taking classes about it. And I'm just going to read you a couple of numbers, right? 500 million, right? That was what Bruce Springsteen's catalog sold for. Bob Dylan, right? 400 million. That's what you said. When you hear big numbers, you pay attention, right?
Yeah.
Looking long term, what's the plan for CMG? I mean, is this eventually, you own, do you sell, or do you keep it in, wealth, build wealth, legacy? What's the plan for CMG?
I don't know right today. I got the exact answer. What I do at the end.
Still got to process it.
Yeah, but what I do know is that we come out on top. I do know we come out on top. I do know that we not one of the stories of, what they had and could have been, and and how they fumbled the ball. That's absolutely not happening. Yeah. So all these guys you talking about, I studied everybody. I watched everything. I watched, Aveen story. I watched the Geffen story. I watch everybody, P, Rough Riders, Murder Inc. Anybody that done it, on different levels. I watched everybody's story, and I just, I watch it for my own study to know what people done the right way, what people done the wrong way, and I do all that to make sure when it get to our turn that we come out on top regardless.
With that said, though, a couple more things to let you get out of here, because you're a CEO. You're busy, right? Yeah. But when you look at that, they may not have fumbled the ball, but I look at empires in music, and they always go through some turbulence before they eventually break. Jay and Rockefeller, the history's there. G-Unit has some problems. You see the history. No Limit, same thing. Cash Money, same thing. How do you avoid that? How do you avoid the human being stuff that takes down empires?
Well, I look at them as two different things, right? Because I look at them, when you talk about the human being things with me and my brotherhood with my artists,
And sisterhood too,
Say it again?
And the sisterhood too with the women,
yeah. With the artists, I look at that separate because no matter what happens, I hope that the relationship stays intact, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't just look out for my best interest, I look out for our best interest. So when I'm talking to my artists, I tell them, this is what I'm gonna do, and this is how I'm gonna exit. And this is what I think you should do, and you should do this so that you moving with me along the same side. So I feel like my job is to give you the game and give you the information on how we're gonna do this, right? And if you happen to choose a different path, that everybody, grown men, grown women, they can do what they want to do. But I think the human thing is like, for me, it's always do right by the artists I work with. Yeah. And the other part is the turbulence on me being sharp with the business ain't happening, because I'm already on that. I'm already on the ideal of because I look when I say the two different things, I look at that of me and the business that I do with the partnership with the labels or whoever that I'm doing business with. You know what I'm saying? And because I feel like the people who I don't want to say fail, but the people who didn't have the right information at that point was because they didn't have the right information. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like, I look at if you look at our parents, right, and you say they gave us the best information they had. You know what I'm saying? So it may not be as much information as we know today, but it was the much information that they had and they gave to us. Right. So I think some of these other labels, and from the stories that I watch, I think they was playing with the best information that they had, and nobody had gave them better information to help them exit in a different manner. Yeah. They may not have a Roc Nation and a Jay-Z to talk to like I did. They might not have a 50 Cent to tell them to change the name to this. They may not have the experience to run with Cash Money and Birdman for years and years to see for yourself what they was doing, and decide for yourself what was, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know what everybody was playing with, but I know the information that I was able to see and the relationships that I was able to build and the information I was able to get, that I'm gonna make sure that at the end of the day we come out on top.
Yeah. Jay-Z, again, you mentioned him. He's a mentor for you, a guy who you rely on. What's the biggest piece of advice he's taught you about the business side?
Man, it's too many. It's
What's
too
your
many.
favorite one, or one maybe you still think about today?
And it's too many, man. And I honestly feel like the biggest thing, information, is what he showed me. You know what I'm saying? He showed me that somebody from Marcy that come from a lifestyle like I came from, could build a rock nation and could buy $100 million houses on the ocean and could, can be a company that put together the Super Bowl halftime and, you know what I'm saying? Like all these things accomplished. These things he showed me because I'm watching and I'm, you know what I'm saying? Like whether I'm in the room or out the room, the things that he showed me is possible to do. You know what I'm saying? Starting from where he started from, which is likewise from where I started from. That's probably the biggest thing that he, that I got from him. Yeah. And I got that from him, like I said, not even just him physically telling me that, him just showing me that it's possible, that anything is possible.
He became a sports owner, like you are too, right? You got
Exactly.
the MLS field.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So like, he just showed me a lot through his actions. Of course, he told me a lot of great things too, a lot of powerful things, a lot of valuable things. But another thing I picked up from Jay is focusing on your impact, not just the money. What your impact is, how many people you can help. How many people you can help along the way, how much change you can help change, how many people you can pull up, how many people you could, voiceless people you can speak for. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole nother rich in itself.
And you guys did that with the Mississippi State Prison, right?
Yeah. So that's why I call Jay the GOAT, because it ain't just about what he accomplished financially. It's about the whole impact. You know what I mean? I think that's where I'm at now. I think I'm at a point where when I wake up in the morning, I don't think about how many more millions can I make. I think about how much more impact can I cause. You know what I'm saying? How many more people could I help? How much more things I can learn to pass down. That's the reason why I go back to school and do stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Jim Collins, man, wrote a great book, right? Good to Great. I don't know if you ever read it, right? Being a businessman, I hope you do, is one of the best business books ever, right? Teaching people how to go from good to great, businesses to go from good to great. What is the difference between good information and great information?
The difference between good information and great information, man, that's a good one. Good information and great information, right? Good information to me will be leading somebody to how to make the money. Great information will be financial literacy, teaching them how to keep the money or letting the money grow itself. Because again, that's some of the things that nobody teaches us. You know what I'm saying? I consider myself a pretty smart person. Even in high school, I made straight A's. I mean, I could have not went just because of the activities in the environment I was in, but doing the work was actually never an issue. I made straight A's, you know what I'm saying? But still, I was a multi-millionaire and nobody had taught me about financial literacy. I just had the money. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's things I tell my artists now, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to, what we investing in, not, what new chain you got, a new car you got, like what we putting the money in. And when endorsement deals come into us, forget what they trying to pay us. How can we get equity in the company? There was a deal I just did with Glow where they came on to do some promo stuff, and I was telling Glow, like, they take the money and put it back in the company because the company is growing. I did the due diligence on the company. You know what I'm saying? This company it's a cosmetic company, but the company is growing. Is growing at a good rate. You know, how do we get into the company? You know, and I was able to, you know, go and broker that deal where, you know, she was able to get into the company and I bought into the company on top of that because we believed in it. You know, to me, that's great information. Good information is me helping her on a music level to become Glorilla and be successful. You know what I'm saying? But great information is for me to help Gloria, you know what I'm saying, be with financial literacy and making the right investment. So beyond Glorilla career, that she's financially successful as a person, as Gloria, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think things like that, you know, because, and passing along those things again, because, you know, the Desirees and the Jay-Z's put me in rooms to talk to me like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's another example of taking information and passing it along to your people.
Yo, Gotti, Mario Mims, thank you so much for the time, my brother. Happy holidays again,
Yeah.
right? And I hope that I get some of this good information because I want a lime green Rolls Royce too, man. You know, it wouldn't be nice to have that. The upkeep is probably bad, but you know, I would like that too, man. So much success for you 2024 and the next 20 years, man. Hopefully CMG can be around the same way Motown is around and Def Jam is around. Hopefully CMG can be around for the next 20.
Yeah. We'll be here.
I know.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man. Doing a little bonus for y'all right here at Forbes. We're gonna give y'all a preview of some of Yo Gotti's watch collection, right? He got a lot here. We're gonna dive into it right now to find out what his favorite watch is. Gotti, to take us into this thing, what you got here?
But it's like 15 of my favorite watches that I keep on this coast. You know, we got Richard Milles here, we got Pateks, we got some cool APs, we got a Tiffany Patek, which is super special. You can only get that from Tiffany. You can't even get that from the Patek store, you know? Yeah. Yeah, this 15 of my favorite. And then I'm still a original, you know, original Rolex. This watch here, the one I was actually wearing, this is a Tiffany Patek. So it ain't just a Patek, it's a Tiffany stamp one.
Okay.
This watch is super light. You feel how light this watch is.
Wow. And it's got a little see-through too. You can.
Yeah. Versus this Richard Milles factory diamond. It's super heavy.
Yeah.
Rose gold.
So when this one is on your wrist, you feel this one. This is a Richard Mille, and this was this one.
Both of them Richard Milles.
Okay, both of them Richard.
Two different, you know. This is rose gold diamond factory.
Yeah.
And that's Bubba Watson. I wear that one more because it's lighter.
When did you become fascinated with watches?
Man, to me, watches is like outfits, right? They personality with conversation pieces. To me, depending on who you meeting with and where you going, that's the watch you wear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, if I may go.
What business watch would you wear if you closing $100 million deal? What's the one that you wear?
Yeah, probably like one of these Pateks.
Okay, something simple then, right? Okay.
Because it's different, right? Like I can put on one of these watches. It's like, you know, let me see one. Like an all bust down, like a bust down watch. Like one of these I might wear to the show or to the studio.
You're not afraid of losing that at the show?
No. No?
Would you ever throw that one in the crowd as a gift?
We don't throw no watches. No. Something like that, you know, I may wear that on my rapper tip. I feel like going to the studio or when I'm performing. Yeah. You know, and then, you know, but I never wear that to like a business meeting. You know, if I'm going to meet with somebody that's talking about doing some, you know, it's some of these watches that's with no stones in it, that's plain, that's worth more than, you know,
the ones with the stones in it.
Diamonds in it. So it's personality. It's kind of what the vibe is, what the occasion is. Yeah. To me, that what watches is. And like I said, this maybe 30 or so watches. You know, but this like the West Coast collection. And I got another.
You remember your first watch? Is that here at all, or is it somewhere else?
You know, it's unique. It's funny you said that.
I thought it was that one because I'm looking at the diamonds. I'm like, that's the first one.
It's funny you said that. If you go back to my album, Back to the Basics, just the watch I had on. That maybe over 15 years ago.
So this was the first one?
Yeah, this like the first watch, and you know, we built this, meaning like, you know, bought it through Rolex plane and, you know, put the bezel on it, iced out the thing. So these ain't Rolex diamonds. It's like buying a Rolex and then taking it to the jeweler, icing out the band and the thing. So this one of the first Rolexes. So this watch here is just like, you know.
Has sentimental value.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't wear it, but, you know, I thought it's in there with all the rest of the Rolexes.
You wouldn't ever, was that maybe the last concert you ever do?
Maybe something like
Bring it back out?
Maybe something like
Like as a sentimental, like, you know, remembering it, the journey of it all. So listen.
But this CMG Rolex right here.
Yeah.
The original CMG.
I mean, obviously, you know what you're doing here, man. And I got you to tell you again, I'll steal the good to great question, bring it to your watches, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference between a good watch collector and a great one?
Well, I would say it's levels. I'm a watch collector, but it's you know, I'm pretty sure it's guys out there that got way different pieces of, you know, I just think Jay was some super crazy pieces on.
We can't count him anymore. Like, it's certain people you just can't count anymore.
It's a lot. I think it's some good collectors out there. I think now I'm trying to get more, and it's harder to get these watches, but I'm trying to get like more of the older Pateks. Like the older Pateks, because I think that's like the more valuable collectible watches. Like the older ones, the older versions, finding those in good condition. It's like what I'm aiming for right now. A lot of people get caught up in the trends with these watches and lose a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, even a lot of these watches I get, you know, I got them from different places. Not all of them came from retail. They came from buying them from somebody who bought it from retail, who put a lot of money on top of it. So when I first started buying watches, I was spending a lot of money, extra money for these watches. So now I'm trying to just be patient and wait. I was
gonna say, Gotti, are you done? Are you done collecting? Do you need any more?
No, I ain't done.
You ain't done?
I ain't done, but I think I don't think if you love watches, you'll never be done. Yeah. Because there's always gonna be a new watch come out, or a new watch you run across that you've been waiting on forever that you can get. You know, because again, they like outfits or like they personality pieces. You know, so
yeah. I guess I have no personality. I just wear beads.
That's your personality. That's your swag. That's your personality. You know what I'm saying? So
appreciate this, man. Thank you. Yo Gotti's watch collection, man. This is pretty nice though. I'm gonna close this, nobody else get jealous.
Alia Bhatt, thank you so much for sitting down with Forbes.
Thank you for having me.
You are an actor, a producer, an entrepreneur, an environmentalist.
Really, when did that happen? When did all these things happen?
That's what I was gonna ask you. That's what your team told me. Do you identify with all 4 titles, or do you feel like you're one over the others?
Actor, entrepreneur, producer, environmentalist. Yeah, I think I definitely connect with all of them. Most of all, I think I would like to believe I'm just a kind human being.
Just a kind human being. Yeah. I'm sure the kindness infuses everything you do. What were you called to first?
Acting.
Yeah.
It started off ever before I knew anything about movies being like a thing that happened as a job. I just remember as a little girl sitting in front of the television and loving what was happening inside the television. So I would spend hours just looking at, you know, people dancing. You know, Bollywood movies, Hindi movies, there's a lot of song and dance, and I was very attracted to all that. So for me, it started off just as like an interest and a curiosity as to, wow, it's so cool that they can dance around the road and the trees and the mountains and nobody's stopping them. Like, why can't I do that in real life? Like, why can't I get off this car right now and start dancing in the middle of the road? I used to never understand it. So it was very simple. And of course, then with time, I realized that A, it's a profession, and B, that my family is also a part of that same profession. My father was a director, producer. My mother's been an actor. My half-sister was an actor, producer, is an actor, producer. So the reality of it being a profession came on much later, but the love sort of happened at first sight.
I've often wondered why we can't just dance in the streets and on the mountains.
We can actually. I mean, we might get, fined or something. We can if we want to.
Now, you sound humble in talking about it, but every theatrical release of yours in the last 2 years has been among the top 5 in the box office. That's not an easy feat. How do you think about picking the work that you do? Are you driven by that commercial success, or are you striving for your artistic freedom and it just happens to be commercially successful?
I have to be very honest. Initially, it was just like whatever was being offered to me, I was doing. And it just so happened. And that's why I feel like luck has a huge part to play in things panning out for you beautifully. I feel like it just can't all be things that you decide to do. There's a little bit of luck and things being offered also at that same time. The roles and the parts and the films that were coming to me were all very different from one another. There was a love story, there was like a serious, a drama speaking about drug addiction. There was a sort of coming of age girl going on a journey, discovering herself, facing her past, and hard truths. These different films. So they were commercial, typical sort of love story films as well. But there were also these challenging parts that were coming my way, or that I was maybe also seeking out, because I think as an actor and the kind of person that I am, I get bored very easy. So I can't do the same thing again and again. So I'm always wondering what I can do next. Especially what I can do next that people would not expect me to do. So initially the choices were sort of like, yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that. Come on, just keep the work coming, just keep working. But they just happen to be different. And then I think over the last maybe 3-4 years, minus the pandemic in the middle, there was some sort of mindfulness that I think this is the film that I'm feeling like most at this moment, so I'll choose this. And sometimes maybe not even feeling a film, but choosing it because something's just making sense, some energy is just aligning. So yeah, I don't think there's a clear formula. I'm a very instinctive person.
How have you learned to listen to that instinct? Because I think it can be hard for people. And I know we went to service day at a local high school to kick off the summit. And one of the students asked, we had Shania Twain talk to the music students, and she said, my producer wants me to do this, but I want to do that. And it can be hard to listen to your gut when you have industry people telling you one thing. So how have you developed that?
It's just that I'm not much of a procrastinator. I'm very impulsive. So if I want to do something, it's almost like I can't help but do it. Like, it's like if I would not do it, there would be something wrong. And even if I instinctively sometimes feel something like, okay, this is something I'd like to connect with, that I connect with in this moment, if I have to ever give it too much thought, it means that it's not for me. And very often, yes, that has happened with me, where people must have said that, why are you making this decision, or are you sure this is the right thing for you to do? But I'm like, yeah, I have to live with it, so I need to be on that set every day, and I need to be 100% convinced. And if I'm not convinced that I'm actually a disservice to the project. I'm a disservice to the film, and that the authenticity or the lack of honesty will show in my eyes. And someone once told me that, I actually asked a very, favorite filmmaker of mine, S.S. Rajamouli, who made RRR, he and countless other films, but that was the film that we worked on together for a short while. And we were on set, and I asked him, I said, how do you think actors should choose films if they want to be, because very early on my goal was like, I just want to be the most loved person in the world. That was sort of very simple sort of understanding, especially, for the movies that I do and for the characters that I play. And he said, there's no formula. Just whatever you do, you just do it with love. Because even if the film doesn't work, the love in your eyes will connect with the audience. And eventually that's what you look for, is to build a one-on-one relationship with your audience. And today when I meet people, someone comes up to me and talks to me about my work, or even just says hi, I feel like they know me. If they like my work, that is. If they don't like my work, then they will not say hi. But if they like my work, I feel like they know me and I know them.
It's nice to make connections with audiences, and you are expanding your audience. You made your English language debut last year.
Yes.
What was that experience like? Because you've been very, very big and successful in the Indian film industry. I don't know if I can call it, is it a crossover? What's the transition been like?
I don't think it's a transition. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. But yeah, I think it was always on my bucket list. I think to do an English language movie, to do a Hollywood movie, as it would be, on my bucket list to do a Telugu movie like I did with RRR. I think for me, it's more about just broadening my horizon. My father always told me, if you're the most intelligent person in a room, get a new room. And what he meant was that if you've kind of comforted your space and if you just feel like this is something that you can do really well, you need to push yourself outside your comfort zone. And that was a little scary experience for me, making my Hollywood debut in such a massive film headlined by Gal Gadot, who's a fantastic, massive star and a great actor, great human being. Also, it came with its own challenge because I was pregnant at the time. So shooting an action film, pregnant, first Hollywood film, it was like, okay, a lot to take at one time. But when I look back at the experience, I'm really glad that I did it because I think I feel like it was so different from what I was doing in India for the last 10, 11 years. And it just maybe, hopefully, opened up a new horizon.
It sounds like such a new experience because it's Hollywood debut and you're pregnant. So in some ways, you had the benefits of just being a beginner.
Yeah, in every possible way. Yeah.
What was your biggest learning in that experience?
See, film sets all over the world, in my opinion, are the same because it's the same energy, working towards the same vision, trying to get the day in, trying to execute. What was different is actually I kind of, because in India, after working with maybe the same people again and again, you have a certain team with hair and makeup and, manager, and like you have a certain team that you create and that you can rely on all the time, and it's your comfort zone, and it just becomes very familiar territory. This was supremely unfamiliar territory because it was just me. With a completely new team, with a completely new set, things happening somewhat in the same way, but some things are a little different culturally. So I think my biggest learning was just that I'm like, I by myself, like, I'm not really dependent on other people to get things done. I can do things on my own. I can travel on my own. I can do things on my own. And sometimes when you're so used to a certain way, of working, you feel like you can't. That becomes like your crutch, like an emotional crutch or all of that. So I felt like I got rid of those crutches.
And that has to help you in entrepreneurship because you founded your own conscious clothing company, Edamama.
Yes.
What was the driving force and inspiration there?
Again, so it's quite strange, but it happened, I think, 6-7 years into me being an actor, and I made a bunch of money that I was like, okay, confident that I can put money into maybe starting a brand or something. So my team and I, we did some research, and I just instinctively felt that, do we need another fashion label for women? There's so many labels out there right now. What's going to be special about this? I don't want people to buy a product just because my name is attached to it, because there's no authentic storytelling there. And I didn't really have, I was also very clear about what kind of clothes even I like to wear in my life, let alone create a brand. So I asked for them to, look for the gap in the market. And it turns out that at that time, there was a dearth of an actual homegrown children's clothing brand made in India. And I was like, okay, that's it. Because simultaneously, again, I think that luck has such a huge part to play in this. I was working on a storybook, an idea of stories, series of stories books, which is not out yet, hopefully this year, of a little girl and her dog Ed, and them going on these adventures, talking to the trees and talking to the animals. And basically, I feel like influence starts very young in children. So if you can nurture a love of nature within children, they become the future planeteers, so to speak. So it just made complete sense. I said, this is what we need to do. We need to make a children's clothing wear brand, a conscious clothing wear brand, where through our storytelling, through our fabrics, through the themes of the clothes, and through the general look and feel, we teach kids to really love their planet. Like, we started selling seed balls with each and every garment that was sold. So you plant the seed ball and you have a beautiful plant. It's an activity for, parent and child to do together as well. So that's how that started. And lo and behold, we launched right in the middle of the pandemic.
And it's doing pretty well. You, in September 2023, entered into a joint venture with Reliance Retail, which is India's biggest retailer. How did that come about, and what was that process like?
It was a very natural kind of marriage. I still am and was very protective of Ed, as my brand is my first baby. I don't think I'm somebody who can say I know business or understand business. I haven't studied. I studied till the 12th grade and I started working at the age of 18. But what I did know was how to tell a story. And Edamama at its core is, now it started off as a children's clothing brand, but now we're slowly turning it into a lifestyle brand where we have, launching different categories from personal care to, non-apparel and clothes, and, we widened our range as well. So for that, I needed a partner who would be able to put that might behind Ed, because till then it was all self-funded. It was my venture and my capital. So this was a moment where I just needed expertise. I needed someone to really take my vision as its own and build it, even further. And I'm so glad that we found partnership with Reliance. Isha Ambani and I are also very good friends, and we both happen to give birth around the same time. Our kids are, my daughter and her twins are a week apart.
Wow.
Yeah. So it all also happened at the same time, where suddenly we were like both of us mothers and having a very different, now my whole perspective on Ed as a brand was so personal. It was just like coming from here as opposed to just looking at it as a business venture. So it all happened beautifully, literally at the same time.
Do you feel like being a mother has made you a better entrepreneur or a better steward of Ed?
I think being a mother has just made me a better everything. But especially with Ed, yeah, because I think now my needs are coming from a more personal perspective, and I become more of like a consumer than the force behind the brand, because now I'm also looking at the product as a consumer,
right?
That I wouldn't use that, or I wouldn't put that on my baby, but I would definitely try that. I think we need to make more of this. So I'm like noting everything down for each and every age group, from like what toys like she likes, and like even all the little things that I see children or my daughter observe, making notes of all of that and putting that into the brand.
So the joint venture was announced in September 2023. Are they investors only, or what's the reality 6 months later?
No, so they hold a majority stake,
Okay.
51, and the reality 6 months later is that we're gearing up for a massive year of lots of different category launches, starting with storytelling, as I told you, because the idea started from there. So June is when we drop the first set of books. Which hopefully in life I'm hoping even becomes like an animation series. Then we have our EBOs going live for the first time ever.
EBO?
Stores.
Oh, stores.
Yeah, because till now we've only been selling online and maybe a couple of pop-ups here and there. But the EBOs will really be able to give you that first-hand experience of the Edamama experience of entering the store and feeling like, my brief was, you should not feel like you're inside somewhere, you should still feel like you're outside. So stuff like that, and then personal care and toys and non-apparel and all of that.
So you have big plans. I was going to ask, I'd like to ask every interviewee here, if we were to speak a year from now, what would you wish to be able to report to me either Ed has done or you have done in your career?
Yeah, I think a year from now, all these categories launching under Ed. I don't know how. I'm so nervous because I'm like, it shouldn't all sort of merge into one another. I want each of them to have their moment in the sun. But yeah, big plans for the next year.
And what about you personally or professionally?
Professionally, I have a movie releasing this year in September that I am co-producer on. It's my second venture as a producer, very different from what I did the first time. But at its heart, it has what our production company stands for, which is just impactful storytelling, which leads into a conversation much after you've actually viewed the film. So that is the intention. That film is called Jigra. It releases in September.
I love impactful storytelling, and sometimes I go into the movie feeling like I should have done more research before sitting down, but then I end up thinking about it for months afterwards.
I actually think that that's nice that there's no research, because you should go into it, you should be able to experience, I mean, unless it's like a part 2 or a part 3, but you should be able to experience the film without being told anything, just from frame 1 to the end frame.
What do you hope people take from this film?
From Jigra? It's a very different film from what I've done in the past. So it's something, okay, I'll give you a little hint because I don't want to speak too much about the film. But at the time I signed Jigra, it was just after I'd given birth, a couple of months, like 4 months. So I was feeling very protective. Something about me was feeling like I was just like, you know, in tigress mode, wanting to protect my cub. So Jigra is all about protecting your loved ones.
Final question. You were on the 30 Under 30 Asia list in 2017. Is being under 30 or was being under 30 at the time an advantage or disadvantage in your line of work? And if so, in either case, why?
I mean, it's great to be under 30 so you can make it to one of these lists because the pool becomes smaller. But 20s, I was just talking about it the other day. It was a chaotic time. I think I was like doing too many things. I'm way more comfortable in my 30s. I'm just turning 31 in a week. Gotten way more into my skin. But I have to say, and I've always said this, I really genuinely believe age is just a number. But what comes with time is just create confidence with yourself and who you are, and being unapologetic. I think when you're younger, especially when you're working and there's so many people around you, you're constantly apologetic for some reason. So I'm still not like I'm like some pompous person. I think I'm still humble and grounded and down to earth. But I've become very unapologetic of who I am today.
It's an excellent note to end on. Alia Bhatt, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you so much.
I know I can walk into any single room in business and I can get the deal done. It's really just like my emotional EQ, like being confident and calm. That goes farther half of the time than what's actually coming out of your mouth.
Alex Cooper, welcome to Forbes.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm super excited to chat with you today. You've had a massive 2024, 6 years of Call Her Daddy, $125 million deal with SiriusXM, finishing your second live tour, going to Paris for the Olympics. Like, it has been an insane past couple of months. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling exactly where I should be. I think that like whenever it's more chaos, I feel more at ease. Like when things are quiet and slow, I'm like, what's going on? Like I need to start doing something. So I feel really good.
Yeah. What has been the most exciting thing over the past year that you've been a part of?
I mean, I definitely think that this new Sirius deal is really exciting just because anything that I do that allows me to give the Daddy Gang more content, I'm immediately like, yes, this is fabulous. And a multi-year deal is something that's really exciting for me and most importantly, my audience. But I would also say my tour. I think like being in person with my audience is something that I don't get to do as much as I would like to. And podcasting is a very isolating experience. Like you just press upload and you can go about your day. And I remember in the beginning of Call Her Daddy, people used to be like, how does it feel? Like it's like the #1 show. And I'd be like, feels great. Like I went to the grocery store today after I like did an episode. So it feels incredible to be in person physically with them and get to see what we've built as a brand. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and to take that offline into, you know, seeing people face to face, I'm sure totally changes like your relationship with your audience.
It just makes me even more grateful because I think I see people writing in, like I'm in my DMs every single day getting stories about women getting cheated on or struggling with a toxic relationship, and I'm messaging these people. But to get to meet them, like there's one girl I remember that has been to almost every single live show and I see her every single time. So it's a really exciting experience.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit. 6 years ago when you started Call Her Daddy, it was a very different show than what it is now. You were talking about sex and relationships, your life as a 20-something-year-old girl, to today where you're now interviewing people like the Vice President of the United States. Like, that's a huge transition to make. Can you walk me through like what the transition looked like for you and why you decided to kind of make that pivot into a different sort of format?
I mean, when I first started Call Her Daddy, I had previously just gotten fired from my job. So I was pretty in a desperate situation. Like, my parents were like, we can't afford to help you live in New York City. And I remember being like, okay, I just have to figure out what is my next move. And podcasting did not seem like the natural next move. At the time, really no one was podcasting except some of the older generation. I felt like my dad listened to podcasts. And so when I first started Call Her Daddy, I was really just trying to replicate what had been happening in my college soccer locker room. Like, I was the most outgoing in my locker room, and my friends were always so fascinated by what I would talk about so openly, just because that's how I was in my house and my parents raised me like that. So the genesis of Call Her Daddy was being authentically myself when I was 22, 23 years old, talking about my escapades in New York City, and I loved every second of it. But naturally, as I have gotten older and I'm growing up, I have different interests. And as much as I still like to talk about my sex and not dating life, because I'm married now, but married life, I also wanted to just change things because I am naturally a creator and I need to be creatively stimulated when I'm making content. And I think that not that it was a shtick, but like it kind of ran its course of only talking about sex and relationships every single day. And the pivot was really just natural. Like, I think a lot of people are like, was it strategic? Of course, everything I do is strategic when it comes to my business, but it also was natural at the same time. I didn't want to just keep talking about the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
And then it just kept growing from there.
Totally. What has the intention behind Call Her Daddy been like throughout these different phases of your career? I mean, like, maybe once it was to just connect with people. Now you're having like very deep, insightful conversations about things like addiction, mental health, across the board. How has the intention behind like what you're sharing with people changed over time?
I mean, I think in an odd way it looks different, but it's always kind of been the same at the core. Like, the beginning was, it felt like there was no one online for women talking so openly about sex and sexuality and embracing our sexuality, and men can have these conversations, but why can't we? And then I think as it progressed, I recognized how much people were enjoying me talking about things that weren't as spoken about publicly, maybe privately, but not as publicly. So I do think the natural progression was more of just like, oh, they just want more. So what else? And that was when I talked to people about getting into therapy and being open about my struggles, and then having other people come on. I think it's been a really natural progression of just, this show is meant to bring people together, and it's meant to make people feel not alone in the things that all of us are dealing with. And it's just kind of like progressed layer by layer, and it hasn't really been this like very strategic, like on this year at this date I'm gonna talk about X. Like, a lot of times there are topics that maybe I haven't even personally experienced, but I know someone else has, and so I want to bring them on because I know my listeners can relate.
Turning that like love of empowering women and having conversations with women into a business is like a very, like you said, maybe it was strategic in some ways, but also like you just saw that there was like a need for it in the world. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you realized that this was something that could turn into something big? Like, like you said, in your locker room at BU, you were just having conversations. So was there a moment that you feel like really flipped that switch in your mind of like, this is a business I can build for myself?
I think it is all based in my audience. I think a lot of times creators are very focused on creating and they're happy when they see their numbers coming up, but I don't think that every creator has the intense relationship that I do with my audience. Like with the Daddy Gang, it is a two-way conversation. I remember someone randomly in business one time was like, don't ever listen to your audience, then you'll just be playing whack-a-mole and that's all I do. I listen to my audience every single day, and that may make me crazy and that make me be on my phone all the time looking at these messages, but it's important for me to have my pulse on what's going on socially, in pop culture, and also just what young women are experiencing. I think when I started to recognize how much every single week people kept coming back desperate for information. Like, I've learned so much from my show. I'm also benefiting from it, right? I think that was the moment that I recognized that, like, there's a lot of women that are not being served. Like, we as women are underserved in this country. I mean, look at what is going on in this country. We are still less than. So I think it was an obvious next step of how do we just continue to amplify for women. Then the business idea came of just continuing to push in ways that maybe at first it started as a show, and then a brand, and then a lifestyle, and now here we are.
Totally. And I want to get into all that and like the importance of like diversifying and expanding in different ways. But I want to know first, before we talk about like how you've built it, has there been a moment in the past couple of years that has been your like I made it moment?
I feel like I keep having them. Like I feel like I remember the first time that I saw Call Her Daddy at #1 on the iTunes charts before I even signed with Spotify, and I was like, whoa, like this is epic. Like, younger me, I still can't really comprehend it. And then I think the moment of taking the show away from Barstool and signing with Spotify and having one of the biggest podcast deals ever, and being one of the few women at the top in that conversation, I hold that with great responsibility. So that was an I made it moment of like, whoa, yes, my bank account changed and that's cool, but like the brand itself so deserved that number next to it. And I remember so many women in the industry reaching out to me just like, yes, like I now know I can get myself a deal like that. And it was really exciting of how empowering that moment was for women. It like went beyond me. It transcended just Alex Cooper from Pennsylvania. I would say interviewing the vice president was kind of a big one. Seeing Secret Service and being like, whoa, I didn't picture that for myself. So I think I keep having these moments, and I just try to stay as grounded as I can, and just I'm very grateful for what I do. I'm aware I have one of the coolest jobs in the world, so I'm just prepared for like the next whoa moment. It just keeps getting better.
Definitely. I want to talk about that Vice President Harris interview with you a little bit. You for years have like sworn off politics on Call Her Daddy. You said go on Fox, go on CNN, like this is not the show for you. Clearly you had an internet breaking episode come out recently with the Vice President. I want to know a little bit about that. Why was this something that you felt was so important? How has the reaction online that's been, you know, in some ways pretty divisive, how has that impacted you?
So I have never wanted to have politicians on. And the first time I did anything quote unquote political on Call Her Daddy was my episode covering the overturn of Roe v. Wade. And I remember when I decided to do that, it really wasn't that hard of a decision at all. I understood that it is a political conversation. Really, it should just be a human rights conversation. But I remember when I did that episode, I was nervous only because I knew people weren't expecting it from me. And I was really, really proud of that episode. And to this day, it's probably one of my most proud moments of something I've released for Call Her Daddy that made a genuine impact. So when the vice president's team called, I was like, oh my God, here we go again.
So they reached out to you?
Yeah, they reached out to me, and I recognized that maybe in a different election, it wouldn't be the case, and who knows in future elections what I'll do, but this specific election, the entire focus is on women's bodies, and we're losing rights by the day. And so to have the most popular female podcast where most women listen to this show in the country, it felt like a no-brainer, just like, how as a woman am I not going to do this? How am I going to look back at myself one day if I have children and look back at this decision? I'm really proud I did it. The second half of your question about the backlash, listen, I knew it was going to come. I am very aware that my audience is very split, and I again, take that with responsibility. I don't want to alienate people, but I did feel like I had a sense of responsibility. So I kind of like didn't care. When I pressed upload, I was like, not that I didn't care what people would think, but I knew there was going to be like, cancel Alex and do all this. I have been doing this for long enough now that every time that happens, Matt always looks at me, my husband, and will be like, 2 weeks. And I'm like, 2 weeks? 2 weeks means 2 weeks, and the internet will be so over whatever happens. And so not to like not take it seriously, but I also think you have to have tough skin in this industry. Like, people can say they're going to cancel me all day. They're still listening. So
So it's
something
been
right.
worth the.
Oh, it was totally worth it. And you know what? It's like the noise always comes, the negative,
Right.
and then it was overwhelming, the positivity I saw. Like it was a lot of people coming forward and speaking up and thanking me. And just it also just created, I think, a lot of conversation, which I was really proud of. I think a lot of people were having debates and conversations over the episode, and that was exciting.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point of a lot of media right now
Yeah.
is to get people talking, get people engaging in one way or another.
Yeah.
Something that you guys spoke about on that episode, and I want to talk about how this kind of relates to your own life, is that not all women want to be made to feel humble all the time. And you, as like a leader in both the media space, but also in business with, you know, record-breaking deals time after time, you have not had to be humble about your accomplishments. How has that sort of mentality impacted what you're building and how you kind of go about creating your career?
There's still so much work I have to do because I can forward facing come off as very, very confident, but I'm still like inside that young girl that we all experienced of like the shame and the judgment. And as a woman, you're told to just be quiet and like, just like know your place and like, don't upset anyone. And if there's a man in the room, like let him talk and like, don't like stand out. And I feel like through this show, I have gained confidence. Like I almost look back at when Call Her Daddy started, and a part of it was a persona that I was like embodying. And like, it's like when you go out with your girls and you're like, I'm gonna be this version of myself tonight. Like I got to show up to work every single day as that best version. And I think it really transformed my confidence because I have not always been confident. And I think as time has gone on, I have been able to, yes, recognize it's probably better that I don't feel like I need to be humble, as the vice president said, because why should I be humble? I'm so proud of myself. And women should also, any step that you make in your career and your personal life forward, it is an achievement and you should celebrate that. And anyone that makes you feel wrong for that is trying to dim your light.
Yeah.
And so I've just kind of leaned in. I'm having a great time.
Yeah. How, because you mentioned there that when you first started, it was like kind of a persona that you put on. How different is Alex the podcaster versus Alex the person?
I'm more quiet.
Okay.
Like I talk all day for a living. So I would say when I get home, Matt's always like, she just wants a chicken parmesan, reality TV, a glass of whiskey, and she wants to be quiet. Like I would say I turn off and I really, really like my alone time. I feel like on the podcast, I can't shut up, which is still a part of me. You know, I am a Leo. I can't stop talking, but I do have those down moments where I'm like, everybody leave me alone. I want to be alone for 24 hours and I'm going to lay in bed.
I want to talk too about this new deal that you've signed with SiriusXM. When you spoke with Forbes a couple of years ago, it was right when you had signed your $60 million deal with Spotify. Can you walk me through what this new negotiation process looked like, what you were really even looking for in the first place, and kind of how this partnership came to be?
Oh my gosh, it's been a roller coaster because in the middle of all that, I was planning a tour and producing Call Her Daddy. It's like
getting married.
Yes, getting married. That's the fun thing about business is whenever something comes out, it's like, oh, and behind the scenes, I was doing 19 other things that some people haven't seen yet or you've seen so far, but it was an incredible experience to recognize that the brand had only grown since being at Spotify, and recognizing that this is a brand that is staying and here to stay. When I recognized that obviously my deal was coming up, I think it was just having conversation with everyone on the market, like every single player in Hollywood. I sat down with all of the executives and I just listened of like, why should I bring Call Her Daddy to you? And it was a very powerful moment for me because I remember pre-Spotify, kind of, not that I had to pitch myself, but I was really having to pitch like where the show was going. Like I was pitching, I was gonna do these interviews. Before I signed with Spotify, I had barely done any interviews, right? So it was like, I was kind of pitching the dream. Now the dream is here and I'm kind of like being able to turn around and see like who wants to work with me, which is definitely really exciting. And I think any business owner, that's an exciting moment when the doors are just open now instead of me having to bang them down and be like, trust me, like listen to me, it's gonna be great. So this time around it was more relaxed.
Yeah.
I was kind of like showing up in my sweats. I I did go to one business meeting in my sweats because I was coming from an interview, but it was a lot of conversations because the IP has grown so much and the Unwell Network now. I have many shows that would be coming with me that they would just be like helping sell their advertising. Obviously, Call Her Daddy is the mother load of the deal. But it was a lot of long conversations and a lot of just like what is going to be the right home for Call Her Daddy.
Was it the financial aspect that was ultimately like the deciding factor? Were there other parts of what these partnerships mean to you that really drew you to Sirius versus some other conversations you were having?
Yeah, I mean, I think there were many. It was not just financial. If anything, I knew the money would be there, and it was more about like what other things are going to people be able to give to Call Her Daddy and Unwell that will help us grow. I think the longevity aspect of building a brand, you want a partner that is invested in you, and I had that in Spotify. I think as business goes though, like sometimes you gotta just switch it up.
Right.
And I think with Sirius, them offering radio and different type of talent support, and they just have a vision for the next few years that in those meetings, privately, they were explaining to me a vision that I just couldn't turn down. And I think as a creator, when someone puts your creative at the forefront, that is a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
So.
Do you, especially since you've built a whole brand off of empowering women and encouraging them to go after things that they want, finances are in some cases like a very touchy topic for a lot of women. Like you said, like in a board meeting, like, you know, women can be quiet, men can be the ones that speak up, all those sorts of things. Do you have any advice in terms of negotiating either, whether that's like a deal, a business partnership, a salary increase? Do you have any advice for women in, you know, going into these experiences and, you know, these conversations?
I would say number one, practice the conversation, whether it's like with your mom or your friend or anyone. Like when you have something that you want to say, I'm always practicing before I go in, because you don't want the thing you're leading with to be your nerves. And it is nerve-wracking to go to someone in a position of power that is above you and be like, I think I deserve more. You could get turned down, but I think the way that you present yourself, half of business is the way that you're just presenting. Like I feel like I am now at a point in my career, which I feel really fortunate for, because this is not how it started. Like I know I can walk into any single room in business and I can get the deal done. And half of it has nothing to do with my business IQ. It's really just like my emotional EQ. Like half the time I'm leading with EQ, not IQ, because that's what moves the needle. So I think practicing what you want to say to someone and how you are going to approach it and how you are being confident and calm, that goes farther half of the time than what's actually coming out of your mouth. So practice.
And is that like in the mirror you're practicing?
You can practice in the mirror.
Like what's your
I would write down what you want to say. I always have notes. I get that from my mom. When I go to my mom's house, she's like, oh my God, I have these notes from when you were in college, sophomore year. On this date, you said this. Like I learned from her, write everything down. So notes, do it in the mirror or to a friend or call someone, but practice it out loud.
Yeah.
That helps though, because then the first time that you're projecting it to someone, you're like, oh, I've done this so many times.
Yeah.
Now you get to practice like your swag and how you're sitting and is my leg crossed and am I using my hands and am I making eye contact?
Yeah.
That's how I go about it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I want to talk, you mentioned your mom there. Your dad has also been a big part of your life, especially in growing up with him in the sports industry. Yeah. And I want to touch on your Olympic partnership this year. You went to Paris for the Olympics, hosted your own show with them. Can you tell me a little bit about how that came to be and like how you felt as a former athlete coming back into the sports space?
I felt incredible. It was a very full circle moment for me. I'm like pinching. Again, I continue to have these moments in my career where I'm like, oh my God, young Alex would be freaking out right now. Because it's really cool. Like I grew up just hoping I could be at all a part of Hollywood. And now that I am in it, I take every day, like I'm just very grateful. The Olympic situation was really fun because Matt and I some days will just have brainstorm sessions where we're like, what do I want to do next? And what do you want to do next? And what like movie do you want to produce? And like, what should I do? And it was just one day that we were watching sports and Matt was like, I feel like no one really, really knows like how into sports you are. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I've never really flex that part of myself on Call Her Daddy because that's not really like what Call Her Daddy is. And Matt ended up getting connected with someone that worked at the Olympics. And then Molly Solomon, who runs the entire Olympics, was like, let's have a sit down. And I remember we went to brunch at the Peninsula in Los Angeles and I was like eating my eggs and she was pitching me the dream. And I was like, sign me up. Like, where can I get involved? And from the minute that I signed up to the end, it was such an incredible experience. Working with a company like NBCU was fabulous. And I felt like it was fun to just try something different for myself. I am very competitive with myself. And so whenever I feel like I'm kind of like stagnant or I'm like doing the same thing over and over, I'm like, what's next? What am I doing? And the Olympics was that next thing.
What is your vision for the future of Call Her Daddy, Unwell Chain? Like, what is the vision for Alex Cooper the next couple of years?
I mean, to grow, but not to grow so rapidly. Like we have no interest in making this like a 200-person company where it's like overflowing, and I don't want to sign 16 more creators this year. Like, I'm not trying to be in the quantity business. It is about the quality business and premium content. I do see when you start a brand, and it's so interesting because it's like, I wish I had a documentary just following me around all day, but like the inception of Unwell Network and the company started on a piece of paper. And slowly, I remember Matt and I on a Christmas break, like drawing like how it would look and how it would flow. And to see now how it's already running, it's been a year and like a month, truly, that like Unwell has been like up and running for a year. And to see what we've done, live events, sold out events, throwing parties in the Hamptons, throwing out the first pitch for the Boston Red Sox. That was a massive success. Like, merchandise business that is thriving and making millions and millions of dollars. Like, there's all these different parts to the business that are thriving. I think it's just to continue to rise all ships, essentially. When one person is thriving, the rest is thriving. Obviously, I know Call Her Daddy is that like mothership, and so there is a lot of pressure on me to keep it moving, but I love pressure. But it's just to keep growing. And I think, again, it's like film, TV, podcasting, live events. That is what we're focused on.
How are you going about like staying relevant in the cultural zeitgeist? We've been talking about like just how fast this is changing, like trying to predict, like, is this someone with staying power? How are we going to keep moving forward? How are you going about making sure that can happen for yourself?
I mean, for myself, I think it's like a little bit of both. There's being aware that you need to stay relevant, but I also think the people that are just chasing relevancy 24/7, they don't actually have a core to like, what is your brand? Totally. What do you actually stand for? So it's constantly checking in with the internet, but also knowing like, you know what Call Her Daddy is, you know what to expect when you're listening to an episode. And so it's not going too far away from what I've built, but of course dipping into reality TV moments or, you know, TikTok moments that I'm like, oh, I want to have this person on because they're noisy right now, and recognizing they may not be relevant in 2 more weeks, but if I get them on, it'll be great for the show and for the audience. It's a balance. Yeah. But not letting yourself get too caught up in it, because you also stay relevant by having a great product.
Definitely.
And no one's going to keep listening if the product isn't great.
For sure. What's your advice for up and coming podcasters or people who want to be a podcaster right now? Like, do you even advise people to enter the space given how much more saturated it is now compared to when you started?
I absolutely would encourage people to, I think long form content at the end of the day is going to be something that everyone is almost forced to do if they want to have staying power in this industry. So I definitely think podcasting is the medium for that. I definitely think when anyone tries to tell you or pitch you what your show should be, just do the opposite. Like, too many people are copying people right now, and you should have as much of an original idea as you possibly can. How can you stand out? Because that's how Call Her Daddy stood out in the beginning. Like, it was so heavily edited. You don't even edit podcasts usually. I did. I was like, no, we're gonna edit this thing so it's like a vlog. Right. Like, you have to find your niche within this huge community because it is oversaturated.
Yeah. Being part of, you know, the under 30 community, you made the list a couple of years ago. What do you think being under 30 means to you? How does youth impact like what you are building today?
Oh my God. A part of me feels like I'm like 65, but I'm also like still 14. I think that age is a very odd thing that I have kind of come to not focus on much. I think I am very aware that I have done a lot in my 20s, and entering my 30s, I'm now excited to continue to build and to grow. But I also think there are so many CEOs and billionaires that got their start at 40. So I think like any advice I also have for young people listening is like, there is no date or time that like if you didn't do it by then, like it's not gonna happen. Like absolutely not. Like for me, when I was a kid, I thought it was gonna happen. I'm like, I'm making these movies in my basement, Mom. Like, why haven't I blown up on YouTube? Like for me, I was like a failure in my brain. But it took me into my 20s.
Old,
right,
yeah.
right. Why at 9 did I not pop off? Like what the heck? So I think age and youth it's exciting, but I also am really enjoying aging and I'm really enjoying growing as a person because I've never felt more sure of myself. 22, 23-year-old Alex, like I knew nothing compared to what I know now, right? So I think, especially to women, aging is the most beautiful thing that you can do in life. So.
Totally. Do you have any predictions for the future of the media and podcasting space in the next, let's say, 1 to 3 years?
Oh my gosh. I definitely think the premium creators and shows are gonna probably rise even more. I don't know how much, I mean, this is like too business oriented, but like I don't know how much funding like creators are going to get now in terms of if you don't have a loyal fan base that you have like an IP and you have a catalog to show. I think people are more hesitant to buy into shows and to like give minimum guarantees. I think it's more going to be like rev share splits until people can see like your lasting power, which again is a very exciting thing for young creators. Like don't be freaked out if they don't give you an MG and they're like, here's $200,000. Like if you're just doing a rev share, I think it's a great opportunity for you to have autonomy and control over your product and prove throughout you building your catalog that you have lasting power. And I always say to people, episode 1, it's okay if it's not a massive hit, but the goal is by episode 50, someone goes back to episode 1 to listen because they found you somewhere along the way.
Yeah, I love that. My last question for you. And by the way, I love that business answers. Like, this is Forbes, give it to me.
I know.
This is not a business question.
Okay.
What do you prefer, the sweatpants or the blazer?
The sweatpants.
Yeah,
like,
right?
These are lightly unbuttoned underneath. I need my elastic pants on at all times. I prefer the sweatpants, but I think some people are always like, why the sweatpants? 1, I have been an athlete my whole life, so sweatpants were always the thing. But 2, I think I never want, when I sit down with someone, their focal point to be like, oh my gosh, like her makeup looks so nice and I'm feeling insecure today, or her outfit is so much cuter than mine. Like when I'm interviewing someone, it's not about me. It is about my subject and the person I'm sitting across from. And so I know people were like, I even saw people with the vice president interview being like, how dare she wear a hoodie? It's like, I'm not gonna change for anyone. I'm gonna do the exact call her daddy formula when anyone sits down in that chair, no matter who it is. And I was proud of myself for sticking to what I know works.
Totally, it's the Alex Cooper brand.
It's the Alex Cooper thing.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This is awesome to chat.
Thank you so much.
My wife's a nut, but she's brilliant. And she said, why don't you use the ear? And I said, get out of here. Because I was a little bitter in the ear, because the ear got me in trouble, and I allowed my feelings to get involved. And know what is funny? When I bit Holyfield's ear, they took $3 million from me. I made more than that taking pictures biting people's ear. Can you believe I was the champ of the world, now I'm the champion Cannabis guy?
Tyson 2.0, New York, born in Brownsville. What does it mean to you, launching in New York, in your home state?
Hey, listen, anybody from Brownsville that's able to launch anything is coming up. I'm very grateful to be able to do that. I'm very proud of myself. I'm proud of being from Brownsville and being the person that launched this company. I mean, it's very grateful and proud of myself on that.
And, you know, obviously, launching in New York on well, I guess, you know, being here today on 420, like, what's the significance?
National holiday.
Yeah.
This is the national holiday for stoners.
Do you remember your first time blazing? Like, could you bring me there?
Yes, I'm a young baby, I'm crying, being silly, and my mother's friend lets me smoke it.
Yeah, oh wow.
Yeah.
How old?
I'm probably 8 years old, maybe young, I'm just crying, I'm looking for attention. She just said, hey, I'll give him something. My mother was a sex worker, so there was a lot of stuff going on in the house, and she let me smoke it, and I never stopped.
Could you tell me the mission of Tyson 2.0? What are you guys trying to do?
It's to try to educate everyone that Potter's it seemed to be in 1936, and then movie, what was that movie?
Reefer Madness.
Reefer Madness, yeah.
It is convinced that he is hopelessly and incurably insane, a condition caused by the drug marijuana to which he was addicted.
We've all seen dozens of celebrity brands launch. I mean, Seth Rogen, Snoop Dogg, Jay-Z, I mean, name them, Lil Wayne. Lots of them don't exist anymore. They're not on the shelf. I attribute that to, one, an incredible team that we have at Tyson 2.0, in addition to the authenticity, the talent, right? Mike uses it daily for his own mental health. Ric Flair, great example. Rick used Xanax for 30 plus years to sleep. He's now finally clean off Xanax, just using cannabis to go to sleep. And if it wasn't for Mike introducing him to cannabis, he wouldn't be there today.
Did you go out and like, I want Mike Tyson, I want Ric Flair to do cannabis companies, or did they approach you?
Prior to Tyson 2.0, I worked on the private equity side, investing in dozens and dozens of cannabis brands, just kind of getting my feet wet, understanding the industry, before I was approached by the Tysons and a couple of their largest shareholders, and that's where we co-founded and created Tyson 2.0. Ric Flair came along second, and just developed an incredible relationship with Mike. I mean, it's an authentic friendship. The two of them together is priceless. I mean, such a good time. And Future was one of the last ones, just trying to tap into different demographics, different areas. We continue to focus on bringing in new talent. We have a handful more in the pipeline, so excited about those.
And so how many states are you guys selling cannabis products in?
Active today in 20 plus states. We have Tyson 2.0 products in over 19 countries, including grinders, rolling papers. On the cannabis front, we did just announce and expand with PH Pharma, Germany, UK, Australia, and a couple more that we're working on the pipeline, cultivating out of Macedonia.
Launching in New York this month, like what does that mean to the company?
This is huge. It hits home for us. I mean, coming home for Mike Tyson is iconic for us as a brand, as a company as a whole. We just announced the launch of Mike Bites, and real excited to get started on 420.
And you know, the form factor, I love. I think it's, you know, really smart. Could you talk about the kind of creation of it and like the decision to be like, this is what we're gonna do?
Well, Mike, his wife, the family had the idea. I thought it was genius when we were sitting in their kitchen and Mike and her brought it up, Mike and Kiki. We went right to work with it, creating a mold, launched it first in California, and now we've rolled it out across almost all of our markets. We've recently announced the Night Bites. So similar to Mike Bites, but it's done with CBN and THC, so helping you with sleep. They actually knock you out, which is cool.
Being a fighter, being an athlete, what's like your relationship with cannabis? Like where does that sit in your life as a fighter?
I think every athlete should use it. You know, there was fighter Ricky Williams that he gave up his professional career for cannabis. The Speaker of the House gave up his job. John Bannon, he gave up his career for cannabis. Yeah. All right, so these two guys are not idiots. They gave up a lot. So what did they give up all that for this? That seems so insignificant. That seems so insignificant for being Speaker of the House, right? Insignificant to be the best running back in the world. I gave that up. Fuck that.
I know you have a fight coming up, but you haven't been in the ring for a while. Like
last time was 15 years. This is 3 years. So. Right. It's not that bad. Pretty much because right now I'm living my life discipline now. Yeah. And so I'm at the fight discipline now. Probably 6 weeks I haven't gotten high or had sex.
Can you bring me through like your mindset, like why putting aside cannabis for the fight specifically? Like what is in that decision?
It's just discipline. You know, discipline, doing what you love to do, doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it. You know, I hate not being able to smoke, but I'm doing it like I love it. I hate not to be able to sleep with my wife, but I'm doing it like I love it.
Right, yeah. And is there something like that cannabis does that you don't want?
No, it has nothing to do with it. Because I want it, I won't do it. But you know, that doesn't mean I'm not gonna use my toll medicine.
Right, yeah, DMT.
You know, I'm gonna use that, no doubt about that. I'm gonna stop that.
While we're talking about the ring, you know, your training, like compared to other fights, like what is your training regimen now for the upcoming fight with Paul?
Hey, it's just concentrating. I'm training 3 times a day, and it's just consistent training, health, diet, agility.
What's next for you guys? Like where do you see Karma and brands like Tyson 2.0 going?
So we continue to expand in tons of new categories. Our cafes and retail, brick and mortar is an exciting one. We opened our second one in Amsterdam. We have 2 coming to line in Barcelona. We have a couple under negotiation here in the US, so excited about that.
And it's like a restaurant and smoking lounge? Or
correct, yeah. So if you go to the one in Amsterdam, you can actually get ear-shaped cakes. and chocolates and different products. So same concept, where we'll have different edibles, different products, some infused, some non-infused. Some people want to come in and just experience Mike's Cafe, but in the shape of whether it's a boxing glove, an ear, or following that franchise model, letting people connect with Mike through the Tyson 2.0 coffee shops.
Looking ahead, you know, we're at a point, like the precipice, like legalization may or may not happen. We don't know what the DEA is going to decide. Does that decision matter to you guys? Like,
Absolutely.
Will it help you? Or tell me what you guys are thinking and hoping.
Absolutely. So the rescheduling of cannabis, obviously from 1 to 3 night and day, because that then moves forward with the Safe Banking Act, which just a flood of capital will flow into the industry, game changing. You get investors coming in that may, not touch it otherwise.
No 280E.
Correct, which changes the game completely. The marketing side of it as well. You're able to mass educate, so educating on a much larger scale than we are today because you're so limited on marketing restrictions and such. So moving it from a 1 to a 3 changes all the marketing side, the capital. And for us, it's game changing. Just the growth opportunity is endless. And eventually that leads to federal legalization, right?
Coming up in New York in the 70s and 80s, like, are you shocked at what's happening, or have you kind of been waiting for decades to see marijuana be normalized?
Well, listen, I'm extremely shocked, but as time goes on, as it went on, I saw it was going, even when people were fighting against it to be legal, I saw it was like a big snowball coming down the mountain, and it was getting bigger and bigger, and soon it's going to run over everybody and stop everybody, and we're just going to all have to give in.
And it's the momentum is
The momentum, yeah, that's what I was trying to express. The momentum is just amazing.
Going to psychedelics, we're talking about DMT. Where do you see that in line with cannabis? Do you think that's the next step? Do you think we're going to see a world where psychedelics are FDA-approved medications, or
100%,
where do you see it?
100%. I've heard stories of people who didn't think they had to play, a professional baseball player that was a pitcher didn't think he had to pitch that thing and took some LSD and figured they had to pitch and hit a no-hitter.
Yeah,
right. So I just think this is stuff from the universe that makes us better people because it's in our plants, it's in our grass, it's all over the place, in our fruits and our vegetables, all over the place. And God made it, and we just have to figure out where it's at. Yeah, all the medicine's right here, you just gotta find it.
What's next for Tyson 2.0? Where are you gonna take it?
Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit. We just we're gonna put our thinking hats together. We're gonna conquer the world. We want to be in every country that's existing. Every country on the planet is gonna have Tyson, Mike buys a Tyson 2.0, some kind of something that's involved with Tyson 2.0 in the country. It's gonna be all over the planet. We want everybody to know our name, know our product, know the product's valuability. It's just it's like a dream come true. I thank God every moment of the day. Why the universe, whatever we believe in, why am I the face of it? Why am I a guy uneducated? Mike Tyson, why am I the face of cannabis or psychedelics? Why me? I don't even know how to spell cannabis and psychedelics. Why am I the face of it? And everybody accepts me as that. You know how proud I am to know that everybody that's in that street, we got 22 million people in the city, whatever it is, and they know I'm the cannabis king. I'm very grateful for that. Yeah, great deal of gratitude.
Mike, pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And happy 420.
Happy 420.
DuVernay, thank you for sitting down with Forbes for the 50 over 50.
So happy to be here.
You are a director, a writer, a producer, but above all, a storyteller. And I'd love to ask you, what is the power that you see in storytelling in 2024, in a moment when society is so divided and fractured?
Well, society is really just the stories that we tell each other about one another and about ourselves. That's what history is, that's what the news is. Journalism, our family histories, they're stories. And I think one of the things that I'm really interested in is making sure that different people are able to tell their stories, be heard, be seen, that we're actually embracing different perspectives, and allowing society to be built with these pillars that really move us towards narrative change. Stories that include and embrace everyone, so that there's a sense of belonging, a sense of togetherness, And I think the storytelling, socially and culturally has tilted one way for far too long. And so it's really just about opening it up and making sure everyone has a say.
Speaking of narrative change, your film Origin is now streaming on Hulu, and you have said that it was really important to you to produce and release this movie before the 2024 election. So what impact do you want to have on November?
I won't say that I'm looking to have, an impact in terms of the outcome of the election. I just want people to be a lot more rigorous. I want to see more rigor in our conversations around the things that matter. I feel a general fatigue. I feel like people are exhausted with the onslaught of news, with the onslaught of misinformation, with kind of the tribalism. You're on this side, I'm on this side. And it's produced this kind of, I think there's a laziness, sometimes an apathy, folks really feeling very, very singular and kind of closed off in the way that they want to think. And so the goal of the film is to open us up, to expand a little bit, to ask us to look around, look outside of ourselves, and really see what that kind of closing down really does. It diminishes us as a culture, and it is going to affect our decision making as we come to the elections. So the goal was for the film to just kind of awaken, get us to see one another in a different way. And hopefully that contributes to different conversations and more healthy outcomes.
Have you heard from any moviegoers or audience members about how their perspective was changed after seeing Origin?
A lot of feedback. I mean, folks, one of the beautiful things about the films that I make, that I love and that I'm addicted to, is that I feel that they're in conversation with the audience. The audience is always telling me how they feel about it, either directly afterward or throughout, through their tears, through their comments, through social media, through people walking up to me in the airport. I'm constantly getting feedback on the pictures in ways that some of my other, counterparts who make films don't get to enjoy. They'll hear, oh, I like the film, but I'm actually hearing people telling me their family histories, intimate details about how they experienced the movie, and I'm hearing a lot about people learning new ideas, new ways to define their feelings, new ways to organize their thoughts around a lot of the challenges we're facing as a country.
Now, you also self-funded this film. You raised the $38 million necessary to make it. And I'm wondering if you could talk about the risks and the rewards of taking this approach in movie making.
Well, I didn't self-fund it. I wish I had an extra $38 million hanging around, but I did create the model that allowed us to go to like-minded individuals and philanthropic organizations and say, hey, let's come together and create a community model to finance this film as opposed to a studio model to finance the film. And it was the first time that had been done with a narrative film. You'd see that nonprofit organizations had given money and financing to some documentaries. They call it finishing funds. There'd never been a film where all of the budget had come from nonprofits, philanthropic organizations, social impact investment, and I'm proud of the model that we put together, and it really worked.
Did it allow you any sort of extra creative control or freedom in making the movie compared to a traditional studio experience?
Yes, Origin was the most free I've ever been making a project since the early days when I was making $100,000, $50,000 projects on my own with my own money. Because once you start to learn how to make films and they become popular, you are in the studio system, in the streamer system, and they are your partners. And so it is a kind of collective decision making a lot of times in terms of what the final film or series will be. In this, I was really interested in being completely free in the storytelling without, having to kind of take notes from the studio. I knew what I wanted to say. It was very important for me to say it on a very specific timeline. And so these financing partners really gave me that freedom. They contributed to the film, and then they left me alone. That's the best kind of financing you can ask for. But they trusted what we were looking to do, and they believed in the vision of it. And it created an environment where we shot this film on 3 continents in 37 days. It was made by a Black woman-owned production company, my studio, Array, and it spans 400 years. It covers 7 time periods. To be able to do that independently outside the studio system is very rare. So I'm thrilled with the outcome and excited about doing it again.
You will do it again?
I'm addicted. Yeah, it's addictive. It's addictive to be free. It's addictive to, work with like-minded people on a project that means something to you. And so I won't say that every project I do will be like this, but I hope and I pray I get the chance to do it again.
It's interesting hearing you talk about your message, because I've heard you say before that you care about the craft of movie making, but it's important ultimately for people to hear the story. It doesn't matter if they're watching it on a plane or on their phone. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, I get some criticism for that. I don't know why. I think, it comes from, I grew up in Compton, California, where there is no movie theater there. So I really understand what cinema segregation is. I don't think a lot of people understand that easy access to films is not something that everyone enjoys. It's not a privilege that everyone has. And so to diminish the idea of seeing a foreign film or seeing a film that you can't get your hands on a plane or, on a laptop or in a community screening projected on a wall, I have no problems with any of those. I'm really interested in you having the opportunity to see the story in whatever way it can be presented to you. And everyone does not have the good fortune of being able to go to the IMAX on the corner. And so I think, we get into a place where there's a little bit of snobbery about how things are being seen, and it's unfortunate, but I think overall, some of the, most of us are watching films classic films on a television, classic films on a laptop, on a DVD, back in the day on a video cassette. And so for me, the form is not as important as the access. Now, do I want it to be seen with my full mix, sound mix, and the pristine picture and all of the things that we've worked so hard to make sure are offered to film lovers? Absolutely. But it's not always possible, and that's okay.
Now, you referenced your early days of filmmaking and the true self-funding, not just the philanthropic model. Would you recommend that to burgeoning filmmakers today?
I would. And when I started making films, there was not as didn't have as much access to technology that makes the process so much easier. We had to, figure out a way to, get an Avid to edit. Now you can edit on your laptop. We had to get really sophisticated cameras and figure out how we could beg, borrow to get these cameras. Now, by hook or crook, you could make it on your phone. I've seen some beautiful feature films made on iPhone. And so there are so many tools, so much technology now that allows people to express themselves and to embrace the craft of filmmaking. That's why I really think that we should, kind of take off all of these kind of elitist, barriers to entry. The technology is there that allows, anyone to be able to express themselves, and I think that's something that we should embrace and invite.
Now, Melinda Gates was one of your backers on Origin, correct?
She was.
And she recently announced a $1 billion commitment to advancing gender equity. A number of organizations and individuals were named as part of the beneficiaries, and your name was on her website.
Yeah.
What do you plan to do with her support?
Well, let me just say, I'm not a beneficiary. I am, so the announcement, which was, it was, I think hard for some people to decipher, is I'm one of a group of women that she chose to give away the money. So each of these women got a large amount of money, $20 million. And she said, go give it away and do good.
So you have $20 million to give.
I have $20 million to give. And it's an extraordinary honor to be entrusted with that. So it's the journey of identifying organizations, individuals that are global, that benefit women and girls and their wellness.
Are you looking within filmmaking and to
all over?
All over.
Yeah, all over.
That's incredible.
It's a big wide world out there. So it's going to take some time to really watch and learn and meet and travel, and hopefully do good with what she has, really given so many of us the opportunity to share.
What do you think about that model of philanthropy?
I think it's extraordinary. I mean, there's one thing to say, you know, these are the people that I deem worthy or the places that I deem worthy, but then to say, you're interesting, you come from a different background, you may have different concerns or different interests, or you may see something from a different way. You give this piece of it. I mean, what an extraordinary thing. So I kind of feel like a kid in the candy store. You know, there are so many challenges. There's so many people that need help. There's so many organizations that are doing good work that just need a bit of a leg up. There are too many. And so it will be quite a journey and an adventure to try to identify the ones that we might be able to help.
Now, you famously did not pick up a camera until the age of 32, and you have said that your story, your career, your journey is as much about race and gender as it is about age. I want to ask you about the courage it took to pick up the camera at 32. Can you take us back? What were you thinking and feeling at that moment to make that big change?
Yeah, you know, 32, I mean, right now I'm 51, so 32 sounds like a young chickadee. But at the time, you know, at 32, most people are pretty set in what they're going to do. They've been doing it for probably about 10 years or so. And that was the case for me. I had a very beautiful career as a publicist in the entertainment industry. I marketed and I publicized and I promoted films and television shows. And I loved it. I had always wanted to be around it. But as I was on these sets, I started to see these guys directing. And I was thinking, he should move the camera. Why doesn't he tell her this? If you just, do they see that thread hanging on the thing? Like I was seeing things, and I was starting to think about story, and I was wishing that I was directing. And one day I thought, well, why don't I try? And so it was really progressive. It was really not a decision that I made, and I quit my job that day. One of the things that I tell people when they're looking to make a change or pursue something new is do it slowly. Slowly but surely. It doesn't have to be all one day. You drop your job and you become the thing. I was a weekend warrior. I was writing scripts on weekends. I was doing things on vacations. I was taking time, you know, before work, after work, to read, to take classes, and just slowly making my way towards the dream until I realized that the making your way towards it is the dream. That's the best part, is the journey, the steps. And so I just really had a beautiful time in kind of, you know, becoming a filmmaker, and I don't discount that time. That time was really an extraordinary time when it was all being unveiled and I was walking towards it.
It sounds like you were a sponge, and you really were a student when you were on set in your prior job. Do you think that was part of what led to your success, was kind of observing as you went versus the traditional path of going to school or starting when you're 10 years old with a camera on your shoulder?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I did have the benefit of being on sets and being able to observe filmmakers. Now, I never saw a woman direct, and I only saw one Black person direct. But I think being a crew member, you know, that long scroll of names that you see at the end of the movie that most people walk out for, don't walk out, that long list of people, I was one of those people. And, you know, when you are a crew member, you are on sets, you are part of the filmmaking process. And so I was observing, I was watching, I was, you know, taking in every day and trying to kind of put the puzzle pieces together so that when I started to have my own sets and be the director and leader of my own crews, I felt very comfortable in that space. And so that's one of the things. You just want to have proximity around whatever you want to do. You know, and sometimes it's hard to gain that access. But I think being close to it, you know, it rubs off on you, and it's a good entry level way to make your way towards your dreams. Just get close to it, however you can.
Now, we are here for the 50 over 50. You mentioned you are 51.
When does this come out?
August 1st. So you won't have
I'll still be 51.
You'll still be 51 when this comes out.
Thank you. Thank you for knowing that.
I did look up your birthday.
Okay.
We have to confirm that everyone is over 50.
Oh, wow.
There are some people who fudge their
trying to sneak into the 50 over 50?
It's a cool club of people. You guys are accomplishing a lot.
The reason why I think this is extraordinary is because when I was young, I always wanted to be in that 30 under 30. I always wanted to be in it, and I never was. And I thought, oh, my chance to be in one of those cool things has passed. But look at me now. I'm 50 over 50. It's fantastic.
It's not too late.
It's not too late.
So I want to ask, is your age an advantage or disadvantage in your line of work?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I think it's an advantage because I started late. So age really didn't play a part in the way that I kind of metabolized or calculated the value of what I was doing. I mean, I jumped in, a good 7 to 8 years behind most of my counterparts who had either gone to film school as college students or who had picked up a camera when they were a kid and were always shooting. So I started late, and I never really accepted the fact that age would hinder me.
When you were in your 20s and 30s, did you ever imagine your career over the age of 50?
I thought I would be a publicist. I never imagined, just when I said that, I got emotional. I never imagined or fathomed what I'm doing now. There was no one that I could look to who was doing what I'm doing now, and I've only been making films for 12 years. There was no Black woman filmmaker who had a consistent, successful career who was making work every year. There were women who had made films, Black women who had made gorgeous, gorgeous films. There would be long stretches of time between when they could get the next film made, and it was always this uphill battle. And so I would look at filmmakers, Spike Lee most prominently, who was working in film, television, music video, commercial, documentary, moving all over the place. And I thought, oh, could a woman do that? Could a Black woman do that? And so I didn't imagine it, not because I didn't see it. It just was never anything that I thought was even possible. So my life every day is a marvel to me. I mean, truly, it's revelatory. I'm walking around inside of a dream. And I know that people are watching me, and the hope is that you're able to, or someone is able to see what I'm doing and feel like, oh yeah, I can do that, in a way that I didn't have. Now, there were Black women who had made incredible films, and I stand on their shoulders, and I want to be really clear about that. But one of the things that, regrettably they didn't have was consistent architecture of support around them so that they could make what they wanted, how they wanted, when they wanted, and where they wanted. And blessedly, I get to do that.
You own your production company, you own Array, you own the ground that it lives on, correct?
Yes, I own the campus.
Can you talk about what that means to you and what that does for your work to have that ownership?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. I think there's something about space and owning the space. I always looked at Oprah Winfrey's Harpo Studios. She had a whole city block in Chicago. J.J. Abrams has a studio called Bad Robot, where he owns his buildings. Haile Gerima, legendary Ethiopian filmmaker who's my mentor, has a bookstore and cafe with his editing room in the basement in Washington, D.C. called Sankofa. And these spaces become what Mr. Gerima calls liberated territory. These are spaces where you can truly be free, where you do not have to pass through a studio lot and hope that you're always in the good graces of the corporate entity that allows you to rent space on their campus. I have my own campus, and that space is mine, and that it is ours, and it is free, and it is made in our likeness, and it is what we want it to be. And there's something about making work in a free space like that I think embeds itself in the image, in the frames. And I can't believe that we have this space, and we may not always have it. But we have it now, and we're embracing it, and we're making beautiful things there, and we're convening people. We have a theater in the space, so we're showing films, we're sharing films free for the community. It's just, it's a dreamy spot. So I'm really thrilled about it.
What's your advice to women in their 20s and 30s who feel like they either have to rush to fit in all of their accomplishments because of a clock that's ticking in their head, or they might feel like it's too late to make a change?
That just makes me sad when you say someone might feel like it's too late to make a change. We always hear the adage, it's never too late, but truly it is about your decision. You decide when it's too late. You decide when you don't want to try anymore. You decide when you're going to lean in a little bit. You decide how you want to be in the world each day when you wake up. You are the director of your life. You call action in the morning when you wake up. You decide. And so many of us, feel like we don't have the privilege of being the captain of our own destiny. You might have children, you might have economic or financial constraints. There might be all kinds of expectations that you feel you can't break through, but no one should be able to get in here. And if you can't do it on Tuesday, then maybe you'll do it on Thursday. And if you can't do it on Thursday, then maybe you'll do it on Sunday. And if you can't walk all the way across the room, maybe you just take one step. And then next day you take another step. But you decide how far you can go. No one else does. And the more that we realize that, the more you understand that there is no time, except the time that you decide to give yourself.
In 2021, you spoke at the Forbes Power Women Summit about what it took to make that change, and you said, quote, you had to ask yourself, can you change your mind about who you are and what you want to do later in the game? So now, a few years later, I want to ask you, what have you changed your mind about, if anything, recently?
I've changed my mind about a lot of things. I've changed my mind about the way that I want to work within the studio system. There was a time where I really wanted to be in that world. Now I want to be a little hybrid. I want to have one foot in, one foot out. I've changed my mind about the kinds of films that I want to make. I really am interested now in doing something that's wrapped in a genre, where I want to do romance, I want to do thriller, I want to do a mystery. And I still wanted to say something within those films. I think all of my films, I'm trying to express something, I'm trying to say something, I'm trying to kind of be additive to the world. I'm trying to comment on aspects of injustice that should be corrected and that we should pay attention to. But I'm interested in doing that inside of genre where it's kind of, oh, that was a love story, but it had this in it, or it was a thriller, but it was this. Imagine a Jason Bourne of justice. I don't know. Maybe it could be, who knows? But just to play with different forms. And so that's something new. And I think, you surprise yourself when you stay open. And you will find that almost every day there's a new idea, or you're being led, or your interests go in a different direction, and not to be afraid of that, to lean into it.
I think you've shown such drive over the course of your career, and I wonder, where does that drive come from, do you think?
I don't know. My grandmother always said, if you're bored, you're boring. Everyone's got a story. There's always something to learn in every moment. I feel like I'm so stimulated by everything that's going on around me in such a great way. Life is just a spectacle. Everywhere you look, there's something happening. How can you not be inspired by that? How can you not want to be a part of that? How can you not want to just, wake up and embrace life and see what the day has for you? And so, I get to, as an artist, express that through my work, but everyone's expressing that through their relationships, through their interactions, and I think that drives me, is what will life have in store for me today, and how can I contribute to it? And that's my drive really just comes from feeling very much a part of everything that's going on around me and everyone that's going on around me. I think our society is structured in a way that makes people feel alone, and that we're separate, that we're not a part of one another, but we're here, we're sharing space. I'm looking into your eyes. Wherever you come from, we've landed here in this moment somehow, and that's fascinating to me. All the people in the world, we landed here today. Our paths led us here. That is happening around you every single day. Isn't that enough to be fascinated by? So that's what drives me.
Now, you are a change maker across society, I think is fair to say. And in so many interviews you do, people ask you for your assessment of progress and diversity in either Hollywood or society at large.
What do I say?
Well, I think you have said in the more recent interviews that there's been a lot of conversation, and maybe it's at least good that we're opening these conversations. But I wanted to ask you, are you tired of being the Chief Progress Report Administrator?
I am. It's exhausting. And I really think that these are questions that people need to be answering for themselves. We all are a part of this. Don't ask me about what progress is being made. What progress do you feel is being made? Do you see enough? Do you see places where we can all improve? So I mean, it's everyone has their opinion, but for me, that question is I think it's the wrong question. I don't think it is, are we done yet? Did we make diversity? You know what I mean? I think it is, how do you feel? Do you feel connected? Do you feel that everyone is included? Have we gotten there yet? How can we all contribute to that? And what is the part that you play in it? These are the questions that I'd like to hear more often, that I don't.
You anticipated my next question. I was going to ask you, what do you wish people asked you? So I'm going to end with 2 fun questions.
Okay.
Because we had another member of the 50 over 50 say there should be a 50 over 50 book club. So what are you reading right now?
I'm reading a book called The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which is a book about a woman that spans her whole life. And it's really interesting to read this book from this woman, and you see her as a teenager until she's, in her elder years. And it's fascinating to kind of watch the journey of a woman through her whole life through this very sassy book with lots of romance and intrigue. Have you read that book?
I loved that book.
I like that book.
I
Yeah.
like to read a lot. You must read a ton, though.
I do.
How fast do you read?
I read pretty fast, but the problem is I'm reading and I'm thinking, is this a movie? Could this be a movie? Would this be in the movie? Almost every conversation, I'm having a conversation with someone and I'm thinking, could you be a movie? Or I'll be talking to someone and someone will say something interesting and I'll be in the conversation and all I want to do is take my phone and write down what they said, because people say great lines of dialogue. I just want to, sometimes I'll be looking at a person and say, remember that. Just trying to remember the line in my head. By the time I'm done with the conversation, I've forgotten the line. But yes, I feel like, there's stories all around us. And they just ignite my imagination all the time. And so I don't even have to look for them. They're just there.
Well, we are better off for you finding them and telling them. So Ava DuVernay, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
We are here with Ava Mendes, actress, businesswoman, and so many other things. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Alex.
So you have done so many things in your career, from film to more traditional forms of entrepreneurship, but I want to start kind of at the beginning. You were born in Miami, grew up in LA.
Yeah.
What about being in those spaces and growing up in those places impacted you, your interests, and ultimately your career in Hollywood?
I don't know. I think it was my mom, really, who was we were very, very lower middle class background. My mom struggled a lot. She wasn't a single mom, but she she could have had a little more help. And she always told me, she said, freedom is when you make your own money. She said, that's what you have to do. You have to figure out how to make your own money. And ever since I was little, I've just been hearing that. And I saw kind of the trap she was in a way, with my father. I love my dad too. I don't want to, but he was the breadwinner of the family, and her not being that for a while, she just always encouraged me to do that. And then she started working. So she spent my childhood with me. Thankfully, I was home with her a lot, but she would always do odd, really cool side hustle jobs. Like if it was Easter, she'd make Easter baskets and sell them to the block. And, she would do amazing little things like that. So she was always showing me the value of working and having your hustle on, until she actually started, she started working at a bank when I was 11. It's just been her support, I think.
You were discovered in your 20s and you started acting around that time. What can you tell me about those early experiences? Was acting something you had always wanted to do? Was it a surprise to you to get into that?
No, I really just, to sound crude, I just wanted to make money and be financially independent. And I realized at a certain point that certain people reacted to me in a certain way. And I was like, I was a big enough of a ham to just go for anything. And I feel like I wasn't even aware that I could even make money as an actress, and then that failing was even an option. Like, I didn't even care about it. I was just like, wait, is this an avenue I could potentially go down? And I did. I'm making it sound simple. It is not. It's very difficult. I mean, it's simple, but it's difficult. It's not easy. But anyway, I started studying acting, and then I started getting great opportunities. But I started creating a love of the craft, but I still never loved being in front of the camera. I loved studying about, the background of the character and what they want in a scene and breaking down a scene. That's all still exciting to me. But once I got in front of the camera, to this day, it's like I never really loved anything.
Yeah. In your first, few roles and your first experiences being on set, being in front of the camera, what were some expectations versus reality of what it meant to be an actor?
I don't know. Funny, it's a great question because I really just went back to one of my first big jobs, and I had to be like 26, and I was on a big set. And I thought, why are they just so nice to only the actors? I thought it was a kind of like bullshit, and there was kind of this this hierarchy on set that I never quite understood. So I thought it would be more of like a camaraderie, and it is, but I still don't like the kind of like, I don't know if hierarchy is the right word, but I just don't feel like, actors should be treated any more special or not. I mean, I guess it's, Anyway, so that was my big thing. I was like, why is everyone so nice to me? Why can I be like a little late, but that person can't be, or,
Yeah.
So
when you started acting and you were getting, many starring roles and you were really building your career, did you envision yourself acting for the rest of your life? Was it like a means to an end? Was it to get other opportunities? What was kind of your future goal when you really started thriving in this industry?
my future goal was to buy my mother a house, to buy myself a house once I started acting, and to just put money into the bank and it was one of those things that like I had an overall like idea, but I didn't share it with anybody. Like I didn't talk about my goals. I didn't talk about like my objectives. I was just like, this is what I want to do. And I want to make sure that I not only knock on every door, but like peek through every door, like bang down some doors. Like, what else can I do? I was never just like, oh, I'm this actress and I'm now this. No, I was just like, what else? What can I do? What, you know?
Yeah.
I'm here now, so what else can I do? So I was always looking for opportunity.
What were some lessons that you learned in those early parts of your career that you feel like have served you through both acting, through things like design, through things like being a co-owner of a business? Yeah. What are some of those lessons that you feel like have served you?
Some of the lessons, first of all, a great lesson I learned early on was like, nothing's personal. Mm-hmm. Like if they don't want you for the role, it's not that they don't want you for it. You're not right for it. There's so many other like there's so many variables that go into like hiring somebody for a role. And at first, the first couple of years, I was young and I took it very personally. And then I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I can't drive myself crazy. And I have to just know that it's not personal. So that really freed me, mm-hmm. because once I felt like it's not personal, that's when I didn't have a fear of failing. And I don't have a fear of failing. I have a fear of not trying. And that's my fear. It's like, I hate regret. I'd rather sit and like, oh, well, that didn't work out than like, oh, I wonder if that would have worked out.
You have had success in many genres in the acting space. What would you say has been your favorite role that you have ever played?
Working with Ryan Gosling as an actor, like when we worked together, he was just so giving as an actor, and I realized that if you work with such a great talent, that it gave me like less to do in a way. Like I was so present. I've never been more present in a role than that role.
What would you say has been your most challenging role that you've played?
The roles I found most challenging was when I was like involved in a very male heavy cast. I found that to be challenging because I'm such a girl's girl, and I need that female like energy around me. So those were the most challenging ones. It really wasn't about what I was doing in a scene. It was more about like who I was surrounded with. Cause like I walk away from a film or a project having my own experiences of it, right? I was 6 months and, wherever I was. And so I see the film as its own thing. And then I have my own memory of it, experience of it. So that's obviously invaluable. So it hasn't always been as pleasant as I've wanted it to be, but I've been really lucky that I haven't had it bad. I haven't had it in that way. I just need women around me. So
Yeah, it makes a big difference who you're surrounded by on the
it's
day to day.
Yes. When I'm in a vulnerable position, whether it's getting dressed in costume or I'm hair and makeup, I'm just like women around.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I want to ask about your decision to step away from Hollywood and from the acting industry. You played your last role in 2014. When you decided to take a break, was that an intentional decision to stop for an extended period of time? Was it going to be just a short break? Where was your mind when you decided to take a step back?
I don't really remember exactly where it was, but I do feel like that I got pregnant around that time. My ambition was still there. It just was suddenly directed like towards something else. Like, oh my gosh, this is where all my focus became my home. It was just like my kids, Ryan, the home. And just that's where I derived my joy. And it also is where, I just naturally went into. So that's when I started searching for things I could do really from home. And this is where I think my mom's like early years of like hustling, making the Easter baskets for everybody, or, decorating tiny Christmas trees to sell around the block. Like, I think that's where I just started doing my version of that. And it was before like remote, like, before Zooms or anything like that. But I was now looking back, especially looking back now, that's when I started designing for New York and Company, which was really just a great time. I did that for about 7 years and through my 2 pregnancies. And that was incredible. I would design from home, be on the, computer, meet up every, a few days a month. And it was just a really ideal job for me because I stayed creative and I love connecting with women. I love it. It's just like making something that a woman can enjoy, specifically a woman, like a dress, a pantsuit, whatever it is. I was really fulfilled while I was doing that.
I want to talk a bit about your experience as a mother and kind of how you found those other creative outlets or other things that you became passionate about. I heard in another interview you mentioned that becoming a mother was the most creative thing that you had ever done.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about that? I think that's such a new and interesting concept. I think that many people don't think about motherhood as being creative, but you have to be. So I'd love to know more about that experience.
It's so creative. It's literally the most creative thing you could do. You're creating a life. And it doesn't stop with just creating the life and then they're here. It's like every day you create. You create together, you create for them, whether it's what you're going to make them to eat, whether it's how you're going to entertain them or, while you're working and, what you're going to do. And then obviously those are the little things. And then it's like, well, creating a life together. I also think that, relationships, that's just like, it's so beautiful to be able to create with a partner, I find the whole process just so innately creative.
And I love too that you mentioned that you really got inspired and interested in what you were doing around the house, which is very related to the company that you are now co-owner of, Skura Style. Walk me through your decision to join the cleaning industry and to be part of a product company. When I was talking with the co-founders, they mentioned that you got in touch with them after being a customer yourself. So I'd love to know more about why you decided to reach out and what made you interested in joining this company in the first place.
Yeah, well, first of all, I love the product. I found a product that I love, which is their Fade to Change sponge. Cleaning for me and for my family, my sisters, my mom, it's not just cleaning. It's a really it's an emotional bonding experience. Like my mother will come to my house till this day. She can barely walk. She goes straight to the sink, bless her heart. And even if there's like 1 cup, she'll start, and I didn't know if that was a Cuban thing or a Latin thing. I wasn't sure, but it's just such a thing for us. And we bond over it, especially in the kitchen, especially doing the dishes. During the pandemic, I was probably like most people going crazy and I was like washing my my fruit, which I'm sure I did more harm than good. But I was going through a bunch of different cleaning products, and I came across this sponge, this Skira style sponge, and I was like, oh, that's cool for a sponge. It just looked different. It wasn't like some like horrible looking thing. It was pretty. So that caught my eye because I love design and I love anything. I love making anything beautiful. But yeah, I started using it and I loved it. So I got in contact with the founders, and I loved their story. They've been best friends, Linda and Allison. I'm sure they told you, been best friends since they've been kids. They like, I mean, they're still best friends. Their kids are the same age. I mean, they're BFF dreams. And I really feel like I connected with them, obviously. And I just thought, there's something here. Like, there's something. I love this product, and I see something here. Like, I don't know. I'm trying to describe what it is, but it's that feeling of like, I'm not sure what it is, but let's keep in touch, And then it just kind of progressed. And it just became obvious that I was like, I have so many ideas. I love this product. And, I started realizing that I was talking about product development and, all these different things and marketing. And I was like, okay, let's do this. I need to be involved. And again, two women. So I felt very, very comfortable.
That's what I was going to ask you. They are two female co-founders, and speaking, from your acting experience, really loving being involved in female-led sets or, those sorts of things. How do you describe your relationship with the two of them and with the Skira team? What does that like female founder space mean to you?
Female founder space. It is just, not only is it fun, because it's just fun. I love, connecting to that with them and talking, but like it's the little things. Like when I make a Zoom and I'm a few minutes late, but I'm calling them from my mobile office in my car, and I just have like, and my kids in class, and I'm trying to make it happen, and I'm a disaster, but I know what I have, I did the work. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to explain, but it's those moments where I become very like frazzled and really stressed out, and, the kid and here and this, and then the other, and they're just like, totally get it. There's no question. There's no doubt on their end that, it's just like, wow, to not to have to explain yourself. I don't know. I feel like that's great. They know exactly what I'm talking about when I was like, or like all I have to say is, hey guys, my little one's sick right now. And they're just like, oh my God, do we not, we know about that, and those things make for a more supportive workplace.
Definitely.
I'm the kind of person that I need to feel supported or through love, or else I tend to like, I don't know. Some people like a great challenge, and I like a challenge, of course, but I still need it rooted in like love and support, if that makes
It totally does, yeah. From a product development side of things, what makes Skira so different from what exists on the market today? I mean, you mentioned earlier the design is something that most sponges aren't pretty, but
yes.
What else makes these products so special?
Well, specifically the sponge, there's nothing like it. The fade to change technology is just, it's incredible. The fact that we have, the actual monogram fade as the sponge reaches its limit lets you know that, okay, it's time to throw out and change out your sponge, because, sponges are 200,000 times dirtier than our toilet seats. I'm sure you've heard that. Everyone's heard that. And it's true, and it's obviously disgusting. So you're cleaning with something filthy. So anyway, it lets you know, it does the thinking for you. It lets you know when it's time to throw out. So that to me was so genius. And I was, that was huge for me. And again, I love beautiful things. So the fact that it was, something pretty and it wasn't your usual, like, it's not your mama sponge, And then also, obviously loving the other products, the scouring pad, the drying towel. I'm big with drying towels because I still lay out my towel. Oh, I only do dishes by hand, by the way. The dishwasher, I could store toilet paper in there. I never use it. Anyway, I fell in love with all the products, and I saw so much potential. And again, trying to link fashion, style, beauty, color, and trying to elevate the kitchen and bring joy, because that's a place where I derive so much joy from. So much joy. Just when my kitchen is clean, when my sink is clean, there's something, I don't know, there's got to be other people, it sounds like you feel this too. It's just like, oh, it's just, you can breathe and it feels so good. Of course, when my house is clean, and I just get so much joy from it. So I have such an emotional connection to the product, and the product is just a superior product than what's on the market today. The other thing that I found really exciting was that right now, before us, there hasn't been a woman in the aisle. There's Mr. Clean and there's Sponge Daddy. And I'm just like, how has it gone on this long that there hasn't been a woman in the aisle? So that also was a huge driving force. I was like, I've got to be a part of this and take this next level.
That is super special. You came on as a co-owner in 2022, and now in your relationship with the co-founders, what really is your role in the company? What are the things that you are offering? Why were you a good fit for them as they were for you?
My role in the company, it varies, but mostly it's about product development, connecting to the customer, really listening to the customer, bringing in my love of design, bringing in my love of trying to elevate spaces. And, I feel like it's one of those things, like I feel like I'm part of a Broadway show where it's anything. Like sometimes if you're part of a cast or part of a show, whether you need to get someone coffee or you need to actually like help paint something, like that's what I feel like, in this beautiful collaboration, because we're such a small company and we kind of like do it all. And I find that really exciting because we're in it and we're still building it, which is really, really fun.
Yeah. I know that you have a collection coming out with the company that you designed yourself. Can you walk me through that process a bit? What was the behind the scenes of coming up with that idea and then really bringing it into tangible products?
Well, I love color. I love color. I love pattern. And I have these beautiful images of Cuba in my house. I'm Cuban. I'm first generation. My parents are Cuban. And I have these beautiful images of the buildings. And I know it's a bittersweet thing because the conditions in Cuba are just, we obviously won't go into that, but there is a beauty in the colors. And I just have these images in my head and I see them around, and I was just like, I need a color palette. I need something that reflects what brings me joy. And the colors in and the design in my new collection is exactly that. It's exactly what brings me joy and things that I have in my home, colors. And there's a specific like design I found just very, beautiful. And I was like, I want to make a beautiful sponge. Why not? Like if you can make a sponge beautiful, I think, everything else, I don't know.
Elevates the whole kitchen. Then.
It does. And I like to keep my sponge out. I'm not one, I don't hide her. I don't put her anywhere else. So I don't know. I like to see her because she's always there for me.
Yeah, definitely. Who are you trying to reach with this brand? Is it moms that are at home cleaning? Is it a different demographic? Who are you really trying to target with these products?
I don't know who I'm trying to target because in that sense, I'm not going after like anyone specifically or any demo. I just feel like if you have a home, if you have an apartment, whether it's a studio apartment, it's your first thing, it's one room, you've got to do the dishes. Like if you're not doing them, who's doing them for you? And so who's ever doing the dishes needs this product. So it's one of those things that's like, it's an everybody thing. So I'm having a lot of fun also just reading the reviews. That's been really interesting for me because I've never read reviews before. And although I do read some of my comments on like social media and stuff, it's different because you're kind of trained not to. But with reviews, with anything having to do with Skira style, it's been really connective,
How do you determine, based on those reviews, what's going to be next for the company? I know you guys are talking about other products that are coming up and, you know, different expansions and many facets of the brand. How much do those comments and the, you know, customer reviews and the customer engagement, how much does that impact what's next for you guys and the company?
Customer reviews are everything for me. And I read their comments. I read what they want. I read what they don't like. I love hearing how I can improve upon something, how it's actually getting to you, the box it's getting to you, and whatever it is. I love reading things that people would like improved or that they need. So that means it's pretty amazing to have like just your customer right there asking you, because obviously you want to make them happy. I want to make them happy. I'm excited about this product. It brings me joy. So it's like, yes, please get it. I'll get so happy off a review. Like, you know, it can really put me in a really great mood. And we win all these really super fun like awards and stuff like that. And I joke around where it's like, that's like a, you know, like winning a good housekeeping award is like my version of the Oscar, you know? So
definitely,
it's really fun.
What is next for the company? I know you guys have some retail expansion coming up. What can you tell us about like where we're going to be able to find Skira Style and what else is on the horizon for the brand?
Well, we're going to be in selected stores at Target very soon, and then we're deciding on some other big box retailers. It's just everything and the kitchen sink, basically. Yeah.
Definitely. My last question for you is, as a mother, an actress, a company co-owner, you are impacting so many people, but what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh, shit. I haven't really thought about it, because hopefully by doing right by my family and working as hard as I can to be the best mom I could be, the best, you know, partner, the best daughter. I kind of like try my best at everything and then let the chips fall as they may. You know, the legacy chips fall as they may.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for chatting about all this with me today.
Thanks,
I really appreciate
Alex.
you taking the time to chat.
It's really fun.